to bring this meeting of the Auburn School Committee to order with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And introductions. Bob, we're going to start with you.
Bob Manili, Ward 1.
Faith Fontaine at large.
Bonnie Hayes, Ward 2.
Tom Kendall, Ward 3.
Katie Gronin, Superintendent.
Pat Gaudier at large.
Dan Poisson, Ward 5.
Elfrida Fournier, Mayor's Representative.
Michelle McClellan, Assistant Superintendent.
Adam Hansen, Business Manager.
Kiara Fournier, Student Rep. Olivia Roth, Student Rep. And
any communications that the board members have received that they'd like to share with the rest of the board between our past meeting and now? Communications, seeing no one jumping forward, we will move on to the consent agenda, which is the approval of tonight's agenda, approval of the minutes for the May 2nd meeting, and administrative nominations, along with the certificated contract renewals, as well as the consent agenda addendum, which has administrative nominations and additional certificated contract nominations. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
A second?
A second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Fine, not. All those opposed? All those abstaining? One abstention. Very good.
So before we move forward,
Yes.
I do want to introduce Robert Griffin, goes by Bob, and he's the new Auburn Middle School principal that will start July 1st. So I want him to come meet you.
Meeting you. Welcome to join us.
Congratulations, welcome aboard.
Leah? Is she here? Not here, okay.
I'd just like to say how tremendously excited I am to be joining you folks here in Auburn. I found the interview process and everything to be just absolutely outstanding, and incredibly excited to be starting here shortly.
Thank you, Bob.
We look forward to it.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
is it possible that he can give us a little information about himself?
Yeah, do you want to come? I was going
If
to
you'd
share
like,
some, but yes,
absolutely.
Bob, if you don't mind, come on up.
Please
I was going to
sit,
share.
Bob.
We'd like to know
Here
who
we go.
you are
Sorry.
and where you've been and what do you do?
Sure. So again, my name is Bob Griffin. I am currently a principal at Wells Junior High School. I have spent my entire career in middle school. I absolutely love working with the middle level students. I have held positions, everything from being an ed tech, working in special education in middle school, to a middle school language arts and social studies teacher, and assistant principal and principal. I think, and primarily, I probably should have started with this. I am a dad of 3 sons. A stepson who's in college and a sophomore, and also an 8th grader. And my family and I live in Saco, a little bit down the turnpike. We know this area well. My wife's family is, they all live just a couple of towns north of here, so everyone is really excited about this. I can't wait to start here. I only applied for one position, and it was this one. And for many years, I have heard nothing but incredible things about the work that is going on here in Auburn. So I'm excited to be to become a part of this this great team. And I've in just the last few weeks, I've had an opportunity to meet several folks, and with each conversation I'm having, I'm more excited to be joining you. And I want to assure you, I will work tirelessly to make sure Auburn Middle School is an absolutely great place for each and every student to attend.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you very much.
Lila Mitchell, you'll notice Lila Mitchell will be the new principal at Park Avenue School starting July 1st. She could not be here this evening. She'll be at a future school board meeting, so you can meet her as well. She has served as the principal and assistant principal at the C.K. Burns School in Saco. Most recently, she's been teaching in Gorham. So she's also excited to join the Auburn team. So I wanted to make you aware of that, but she could not be here this evening.
Very good. We open it up to public participation at this point in time. Any item that is not on the agenda, that if someone would like to speak to the committee and share their views, we welcome those comments. Please come to the mic, your name and address, and share with us your thoughts.
So my name is Stacy Fournier. I live at 47 Cherryvale Circle in Auburn, and this is Andrew Fournier. He lives at the same address.
Same house? Very good.
I'm just bringing up my notes. I apologize. So I brought my 12-year-old son, AJ, who's a 7th grader at AMS, with me tonight to speak against PBL. I did ask him to speak, and, well, he's 12, and that's just not going to happen tonight. So I also asked him if he would talk to me after school today, and I wrote notes of what he said, and I would like to read those to you to start off with. Before I say anything else, though, I'd like to say that our statements are in no way made against AMS or its teachers in any way. I don't want my words or thoughts twisted to mean anything but what we intend them to mean. AJ specifically takes issue with PBL and the max achievable scores, or as the kids call it, MAS. Again, these are his words, and I quote, "It doesn't make sense that I can work my hardest and still only achieve a 2.0 or 2.5 or 3.0 on an assignment, almost never a 4.0. I've worked harder and have a better finished product than another student who's earned this same 2.0 score that I have. How is that fair? If I want to achieve a higher score, sometimes it's not an option, and other times it is extra work, even though my final project was better quality than the others. Just not fair." Okay, now that's what he said. Now is what I have to say. Mr. Kendall, you stated recently that you only believe a handful of parents take issue with PBL. That statement really highlights how incredibly out of touch you are with the parents of this community. I see and speak with a lot of parents when out and about in town, at karate practice, sporting events, birthday parties, waiting for the kids to get out of dances. PBL is all we talk about, and no one is happy with PBL. And the overwhelming consensus is that the Auburn school system is letting our kids down and doing them a major disservice. We are seeing that the kids just aren't trying. They say, "Why should I try harder? I only need to get a 2.0 as it is the MAS. We feel the system has given up on our kids, and now our kids are giving up." Next, why are you not hearing from these parents? I have 2 reasons for this. We're busy. We work 40+ hours a week. We have to rush home, get the kids to practice, meets, games, dance classes, on and on. Then it's help with homework, feed the kids. I gotta still do laundry, basic necessities of maintaining a household. We do not have time to come meetings once a week to speak our minds, which leads me to my second point. We parents are not listened to by this administration and this school committee. Time and time again, we speak our minds at school committee meetings and in the public city votes. It never matters how we vote or what we say. This administration does what it wants and makes decisions behind closed doors. Parents say to me when I ask if they will go to the meeting, "Will you please come tonight? Please come tonight and speak your words." Why should I go? It doesn't matter what I do. It doesn't help. That's what they say. Shame on you, Mr. Kendall, a school committee representative, for your statement and making us feel guilty for not being here when we're actually home parenting. I had to make the decision to pull AJ from karate practice tonight so you would hear our voices. It is a detriment to him that we are here, as he is studying for his junior black belt, and his test is very soon. He's missing a class. It's really not an option to do that. And his sensei is going to have words with me tomorrow, but that's the price I pay to be here, and that was my parenting dilemma tonight. I will sum up. It is not a handful of parents that take issue with PBL. It is a handful of parents that speak for the rest of us and our unhappiness with PBL. There are groups on social media and meetings held at times more convenient for parents. The handful of parents that are speaking for the majority of us that we very much dislike PBL. And last but not least, I would like to say thank you to these handful of parents for speaking up. That's all I have to say.
Can you hear me? Okay.
So,
All right. I'm not very good at public speaking, so give me a moment. I'm a little shaky. But my name is Corin McGuigan, and I live at 444 Turner Street. I'm here to voice my concerns regarding the way in which proficiency-based education is being implemented here in Auburn. I truly believe that each student is exceptional in their own way and deserves an environment where they are encouraged to grow as a learner and are encouraged to grow as a learner. Not all students learn the same way or at the same pace. So in theory, you would think that I support proficiency-based education. But at this point, I cannot in the way that Auburn is implementing it. The example that I have of why I do not support this in this way is my daughter. My daughter is in 8th grade at Auburn Middle School. She's a high achiever. She is very dedicated and a fantastic student. She goes to class prepared and eager to learn. Last week, she received the Scholar Leader Award for middle-level students. She was nominated and voted for by the teachers and administration at AMS because she exemplified a leader amongst her peers, both in and out of the classroom. She is above teacher pace and proficient in all of her classes. She completes her assignments on time and goes above and beyond all the time. Still, she must wait until the remaining students catch up. Then she is on pace for a bit and quickly moves ahead and has to wait. And the cycle continues over and over again. The PBL grading is a 1 through 4. My daughter, although above teacher pace and showing she is more than proficient, has been told she will ever only receive a 3. My daughter has been given a ceiling on her education, and this is not okay. She deserves better, and I expect better from you.
Hi, I'm Barbara Hawanick from 134 Nottingham Road. Recently, this group of parents and students were referred to as a dozen or so parents having a knee-jerk reaction. Knee-jerk, really?
may I clarify that? That was not my statement. My statement was the school committee would not have a knee-jerk reaction to the request. That was the clarification. I'm sorry to interrupt.
The Merriam-Webster dictionary defines a knee-jerk reaction as one that is readily predictable and acting quickly and without thought. Nothing, I repeat, nothing about the response by myself and the rest of the parents and teachers who have testified here and in Augusta has been without thought, nor have we acted quickly. My vocal and visceral opposition to PBL, PBE, PBD, MCL, or whatever vernacular the administration is currently choosing to use has been heavily researched and thought out. I resent being described as someone who has not thought out my responses. Additionally, the knee-jerk response is typically a one-time reaction. As you can see, by the last several months of meetings, and for some of us, 14 months of attending these meetings, that's not what's happening here. Furthermore, we have been told that change is hard. It doesn't have to be hard, and in the majority of instances in life, it is not hard at all. Our world is constantly changing. Our seasons change 4 times a year. We adjust. Our children change daily. We adjust. Relationships change. Rules change. Organizations change. I know. Institutional change is different. That's what some people say. Is it? Really? I was the director of a substance abuse facility in Portland. We had to institute change all the time. Federal and state regulations are constantly changing, and we had to stay current or lose our licensure. The difference was that the changes we made were well thought out and necessary. My team trusted me, and we provided the staff with clear, precise direction when implementing our evidence-based change. Yes, change can be hard when there is not buy-in by consumers. By that, I mean the parents and students, and providers, meaning the teachers. The administration and the school board have failed us. They have failed us miserably now for 7 years. These changes aren't working, so what do? When we keep trying to push a round peg into a square hole, we will continue to fail. Who fails? Our students fail. It's time to repeal the 1 to 4 grading and empower. They're not working for most of the students. We need to set precise, achievable goals that have no limits for our students. I implore you to change our course. I have spent hours perusing the school budget. I have seen hundreds of thousands of dollars and where it's going. I ask all of you here tonight and all of you watching at home, wouldn't you rather see that money going towards more teachers and smaller classroom sizes, or guidance positions, or higher salaries for our teachers who are about $10,000 below the salary lines of surrounding communities? I would. Should the school committee and administration fail to do so, there are still more options left to the taxpayers. We can visit those next week.
Hi, I'm Jen Dodge. I live at 14 Carson Street. I'm coming here to just voice my concerns as a concerned parent on PBL. I've felt strongly against it for years. I actually moved from a different town that was currently having PBL format, and I moved to Auburn years ago, and now Auburn has taken it on. I don't feel as though it helps our kids to progress and prepare them for the future on many aspects. My kids are really young right now. They're only in 1st and 3rd grade, but before I know it, they're gonna be ready for middle school, and so I'm preparing for things now. I have an example I can use, a couple examples. One is my 1st grader. Academically, he's beyond his grade, but socially, he's where he needs to be. The teacher has told me that she won't be able to teach him in the classroom because he's not where the other students are. And so she has provided me with work that I can work with him at home, but yet she says in the classroom he can work on his leadership skills. She does send him outside of the classroom for 2nd grade level math and 2nd grade level reading, but every report card that we get home, he's 3s in everything. And that's fine, but she had told me he will always get a 3, he won't get a 4 because I'm gonna grade him on the work that he's doing, which is an entire grade up from what he, from the class that he's in. So, but he, as far as proficient, yes, he's proficient in his grade, but he's beyond his grade. So if somebody's looking at a first grader and comparing a 3 to a 3, they look exactly the same, but yet he's doing the next grade up level of both reading and math. So that's one example that I have. If that carries on throughout, then he's not getting as much as he can be getting from the school, from his education. Another example that I have is, as far as my career goes, I'm a physical therapist, and I have students in high school that come and job shadow me at times, and they pick my brain, I always pick their brain, just to see where they're going and if they're happy and kind of how things are going with their school. And I have heard a number of times in students that are in high school with the PBL, they're very lax about things. They don't seem very motivated, and these are just the examples of the kids who have come into job shadow with me. And I ask them about their class and everything, and they say, as far as test taking, they say, oh, well, if I don't pass it, then I can just take it again, and there's no guidelines. And as far as, and I've talked with many high school students, and then they say that if they don't turn in their assignment one day, well, they can turn it in at the end of the week. And when it's just not preparing them for college. And I worry about my kids when they get to that level, that they're just not going to be prepared at all for college, because you can't turn something in a week late. You can't retake a test. You won't make it through your program that you're in. So I don't feel as though it's setting the kids up for success at all. And in fact, it's giving them false hopes as far as, what they need to be doing. So those are my two main examples, and I'm just very, very much against PBL, and I really hope that we see a change here. Thank you.
How you doing? My name is Jesse Bell. My daughters go to Fairview and AMS. We've heard countless times what people think about this system that we have and how it doesn't work and how they don't like it. I've been fortunate in my life to hold some very high-level leadership positions in the United States Marine Corps and also in the U.S. government. And I know whenever I implemented any changes in those organizations, or when my hire implemented changes that I had to implement, I always went back at a certain period of time, depending on the change, and saw how it was affecting the people I was in charge of. And I would ask them, is this working for you? What can we do better? How's this working? That sort of thing. Get feedback. Take those notes, cross-examine them so you can see if there's any trends of good things, bad things, whatever. Pretty simple thing. I mean, it's basic leadership. So I just have a question for you guys tonight that I'd love an answer to, and I think everybody here would like an answer for it too. How many schools in our district have you personally been to? How many teachers have you personally talked to? How many students have you personally talked to? How many parents have you personally talked to? And what is the feedback? Where's the positive? Nobody's given us any of that. All I hear is negative.
If a school committee member would like to respond, they're welcome to, but generally, we don't respond to public comment. If you'd like a response, that's why we take your name and address.
I think that this whole group here deserves a response now.
I think, I can't speak for everyone, but I think
I think they're speaking for us. Have you done, just yes or no, have you done this? Have you talked to students? Have you examined? Oh, you have, a lot of them? And you have those records that you've been able to cross-examine to say, oh, this is good. Could use some work. And then could we see all that information?
We do get that feedback, and we are working on it.
You personally have done that?
I won't say that I am gathering that feedback to pass on for the work, but the work is taking place, yes.
By whom?
By the administration.
Tom, can you talk about the task force that's going on right now?
If you're unaware that there is a task force that's been formed, and it met, I believe, Tuesday?
What are the results of this? Oh, it formed last Tuesday?
It's
yesterday?
Formed, and it met this past Tuesday for the first time. They will be examining the practice of what's been termed PBL.
When did the PBL get implemented? What date?
What
was the date it got implemented?
PBL was implemented?
Yes, sir.
Well, we started that path about 7 years ago.
So 7 years have gone by before you've even begun a task force to assess how it's working. I think that's a little long.
We've really just started implementing it.
I know, we just clarified that. Tuesday, you just implemented it. It's been 7 years.
7 years in development.
Can I intervene here, please?
I'm sorry?
Could I speak, please?
I'd love to hear it, yeah.
The system has been working with proficiency-based methodology since 2011. But it has taken all of that time for the teachers to be trained to implement it. So it sounds like we've been working for 7 years with it all as a fait accompli. It's still not a fait accompli. It's still not completely implemented.
And during that time, have you gotten feedback on how it's actually affecting the people that it affects?
Of course we have.
You have, and you have that information that we could see?
I'm new to the board. I personally don't have any data, but we are gathering data and
I'm
it
hearing
has
a lot of
been-
no's right now.
Excuse me?
I'm hearing a lot of no's. It doesn't seem like you've looked into this.
Of course we've looked into it. I'm saying I've only been on the board since December. So for the past 7 years, I have not been gathering data, no. Has the system? Yes, they have.
So when do we expect this to actually start working?
The last time that we had public comment here where were people in support of PBL, this board was accused of stacking the deck, quote and unquote.
Stacking
So
the deck
I don't
against
think you
it?
people want to hear any positive comments.
I haven't heard
really
any
don't.
positive comments been given.
We had a whole session here where we had public comment that people spoke in support of it.
After it was put into place.
Yes, sir.
May I speak, please?
Go ahead, Elfrida.
Those public comments that were defending, in defense of PBL, I did notice a trend, and the trend was that all of the teachers who spoke came from a particular school. They all came from a particular grade level. It appears that there was nobody representing the middle school, and there was nobody representing the high school. And we know that at the time that we had the feedback. We have to be honest. I believe in total transparency.
I have spoken to teachers.
And I have also spoken with teachers, and there is a mix. It appears that some of the teachers at the elementary level are comfortable with it, and it probably is fine because it matches, you know, the grade level of those students, and it seems to be okay. By it, I don't mean maybe PBL, it could be standards-based. Call it what you want to call it. But I'm not finding that at the middle school, and I'm not finding that at the high school. I'm not hearing from all of the teachers. We're not hearing from them because they're not speaking. We also have a survey that's out there, and that survey needs to be completed by teachers and parents. If they don't complete that, our task force is going to look at the information that we received, and we're going to go with that information. We need to hear from everybody. We need to hear from all of the teachers. We need to hear from all of the parents, and we need to hear from the students. I have received letters from students. I received letters from parents. I have received information from teachers and constituents. So I'm representing the council. I'm representing the mayor. I'm also on the school committee. I'm a voting member on the school committee. And I appreciate being on the task force because this is where we can make a change, where change is needed. And I think we need to be very honest about what is working, what's not working. I have heard from a number of meetings here, we have consistently heard from parents who are not happy with what's going on. If we don't listen to you parents, then there's something wrong with our system here. So I think that we need to listen to those who are vocalizing the concerns. We also are listening to people who are happy with it.
Right.
But the thing is that there's a balance. And we need to see what's right, we need to see what can be fixed, and what's wrong with it. And we need to bring it to a place where everyone is happy and content, and our kids are learning. And there's a lot of frustration out there, and I'm hearing it. And from the perspective of the parents and from the teachers as well, and also from our students. So this is an opportunity for us to make a big difference. And we need to hear that information, both positive and negative. And we need to do something about this to make it what it needs to be. So if we don't fix it, if we don't take care of it, we're going to continue to hear, probably from people who are stating negative statements. We have heard the positives at the beginning, and there are positives. I'm a former principal. I'm a former special ed teacher. I spent 37 years in education. Way back when, I was involved in a major change that had to do with standards-based. It wasn't PBL. It was standards-based. I do believe in teaching to standards and making sure that our students meet standards. I also don't believe in holding students back. I believe if they need to fly, let them fly. And that's what I'm seeing here that bothers me. If my grandson and if my grandson's friends have to wait for the next person and the other people to be able to be on the same level, there's something wrong with that. And inherently, as an educator, I don't believe in that. And I can say that because we were involved in training years ago. I'm a retired educator now. We spent a lot of time training, testing, creating our own tests. There was a lot of consternation at that time as well. The thing that bothers me is that I want to be able to see our teachers teach and feel they're doing a good job and feel comfortable teaching. I want to see our students fly. I want to see them go as far as they can and get to where they want to be. So there's a lot of that going on right now, and we're trying to balance all of that. There's a lot of emotion. But number one, we need to hear everybody, and we need to do something about what people are saying. We need to hear everything, the positive and the negative. So I very much appreciate you people coming forward and speaking up. If we keep hearing from people, then something is not right. So let's take care of it. Let's take care of it.
I do think, though, that we need to recognize that there have been successes in many classrooms. We've had teachers who are doing and delivering this successfully. I have talked to parents who are pleased, who have said to me, I know where my student is, I know what they're learning, and my student knows where they have to go. Okay? So our decision is going to, as Elfrida said, I'm hearing both sides of this. Okay? It's not all rotten and it's not all perfect. So please, I guess I'm asking for some more patience. I'm asking to allow this task force to at least get its feet off the ground and see what we can do about this. But please, just understand that there are people who are successful at this.
Are there any thoughts on the other school districts that have abandoned this system already? Or are they missing the boat there? Are they not understanding what's actually happening? Because it's been voted down in other places. This isn't just
Where has
Auburn.
it been voted down? I'm not, where has it been voted down?
Minot Falls and Poland.
You can listen to them. Thank you for your time.
That district,
No.
the district.
Hi. My name is Marnie Dubois. I live at 138 Fairview Avenue in Auburn. I have 3 kids in the school. I'm very nervous. So,
That's okay. Say what you need to say.
but I want to thank Council Fournier for your transparency and for your comments.
It needs to be that way.
I have a unique situation. I have 3 kids in the school system. I have 1 at Fairview School, 1 in the middle school, and 1 in high school. So for the positive comments, my daughter Madeline was in the pilot class. I think it was the pilot with Kathy Martin and Courtney Espejo, where they spearheaded it, and it was phenomenal. I was the biggest proponent of that, and I think at the elementary level, there's some real positive.
Right.
Kids worked together. They coached each other. It was really positive, and I know I have other friends who feel the same way. My daughter Olivia, who's my older, she's a junior in high school, so she's sort of beyond the PBL. I guess, I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but she's not working through that right now. So when she was in middle school, she really flourished. I'm extremely happy with the Auburn schools, by the way. And when she got to middle school, she was allowed to fly. As you said, she was beyond pace in math, and her math teacher just let her go as far as she could go. And that was exciting, and she was very motivated and continued to be motivated and still does. My daughter Madeline is now in middle school. She's a 7th grader. She's also very smart, but the motivation level is not there. It's just not. And she's, you know, in being in that pilot class with Kathy Martin, she was a leader. She was very much engaged with the, you know, with her education. But now that she's in middle school, she has to sit and wait. You know, she's through her test or whatever, and she has to sit and wait for the other kids to get up to her. And she talks to me about how she doesn't have to pass something in because it's due, but it's not due on a certain day. So I'm seeing just a real comparison between my two kids and their experiences, and they're vastly, vastly different. So I was a part of the positive with watching my daughter. I think there's some value in the elementary levels with PBL, but once you get to middle school and high school, these kids have to learn how to be responsible, have a real accountability. I just think it's really important. So if this can be a part of the positive, you know, working together to make it work, it's just not working at the middle school and high school levels. My brother actually happens to be a superintendent in Massachusetts, so I've had some great conversations with him. And he you know, talked to me about the merits of, you know, PBL, and it's not in his school district at all, but he's obviously researched it and knows about it. But so when I'm talking to him about what happens when we apply to colleges, so my daughter Olivia, she's all set. But Madeline, she's, you know, in middle school, and we're getting there, so time, you know, the clock is ticking. And so he was talking about the merits, but even my brother, who's a superintendent, you know, understands way more than I do, way above me, but he's like, I wouldn't want to gamble with my kid. You know, if it was his kid applying for college at this point in time, he's like, there's no one can guarantee what's going to happen when our kids start applying to some of these schools. So that's a big concern, and I think, did you have something to ask me?
I want to ask you a question.
Sure.
All right. What I'm hearing from you is that when Madeline was at Fairview,
Yep.
she had a good experience. So are we talking two different kinds or two different successes with the implementation? Mm-hmm. Is that really what's going on here?
It's hard for me to say. I mean, because there was a real focus, and they actually were able to loop with the same kids.
Okay, because I'm hearing multiple things. I'm hearing people who don't like the grading, and I understand that, and I hear that, and that makes a lot of sense to me, and hopefully we can correct that.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to figure out is whether we need to correct the whole thing, and I'm trying to figure out where it's breaking down, because I think the methodology makes sense. It's just that we need to maybe improve how we're implementing it.
Yes and no. I think the methodology where it's sort of open-ended for assignments and taking a test over and over again until you are proficient, I think once you hit middle school, those things need to change, and they need to have real consequences and a real grade, and if you don't study and you get, that's it, but...
I think that's part of the implementation.
I guess.
Rather than the perfection of the instruction, and I think we need to address that.
I don't know. But thank you.
Thanks, Marnie. Hi. Mr. Marino?
My name is Dan Marino. I live at 3 Bourbon Street in Auburn. I'm an architect. I'm a professor at Central Maine Community College for 18 years. My family is here with me. As you may recall, I came here before this council to bring you my concerns and my objections to the PBL process. Addressing adding more teachers, reduce student-teacher ratios, and address adequate pay. Tonight, I have a few points I wish to add to those prior comments and to add some new ones. Just by a show of hands, how many of you have children currently in the school system of Auburn?
How about grandchildren?
I have grandchildren.
Children.
Children, no. I have a grandchild that
I-
I'm very involved with in the system.
I was going to get to that.
Answer his question.
I wasn't going to discredit grandparents. Okay, now, grandparents, do you have children in here? Great. So the grandparents, were you given a link to take that survey?
No.
Okay. So I was not aligned to that survey. I'm a taxpayer of Auburn. I have voting power in Auburn against the budget. I was not included in your survey. I took my daughter out of school systems of Auburn because of PBL, because you are minimalizing education. I'm seeing it tonight. I'm actually hearing you're trying to paint a better picture to a porta potty. This is a bad thing. You are kidding yourselves if you think PBL works. Every other district around you is dumping it. The stats say it fails. Why wasn't I included? Why were not taxpayers included in this? Don't you want to know why I took my child to St. Dom's? You think I want to pay twice? I have to pay taxes in Auburn, and then I have to pay to St. Dom's. Okay? Why is it, explain this one to me, okay, that the demographics was only to parents with kids? Why? I'm sorry, but that was wrong. I was shocked that the survey didn't address competitiveness with surrounding schools and districts. Requirement of standardized testing, SAT performance, to name a few. Homework, there wasn't a single question on that survey about should your child take homework. Oh, and by the way, I did take the test,
Yeah,
okay?
did you
It was
find out
forwarded
about
to me. I'm sorry?
He could take the test, yeah.
It was
How did you
forwarded to me.
I want to know how you saw the survey, because I don't know. I haven't seen it, so I just wondered.
You haven't seen the survey? That's even worse. You are supposed to know that survey. It was created by you, wasn't
No,
it?
it was not created by us. No, it was created by the head of the task force,
Okay.
the administration,
I-
and it was sent out to parents.
Okay. So we're in agreement now that you as school council knew nothing about this survey, yet you pushed it out, and there's data coming in for it, okay? Right? That you also are going to stand behind, knowing full well, in other words, you put your name on something that you know nothing about. Okay? Next.
Dan, the task force was formed, okay, by the superintendent and the curriculum director, okay?
I get that, Bonnie, but it was a simple answer. You are the council. You all should have taken that survey. You all should know what's on that survey. You just said to me, you're a grandmother. You have children in the system. Don't you? You should know.
I do have, yes.
Okay, so-
However, at some point, you have to trust what's happening in the system. Okay? I'm sorry, guys.
Excuse
Come
me,
on.
please, let's have, I want to have respect and consideration for everyone. This is my time. I guarantee you, I really want this dialogue to go forward, okay? So, why more important, why we removed from the system is beyond me, okay? I've been a participant in conversations on Facebook that come from all sides. Most noticeably, members of the task force that I have noticed participated in it. And they have stated that your mind is already made up. This is a farce, that what we're doing is useless.
That is not true.
Well, let's hang on to that thought, okay? So the stats on the performers speak very, very plainly, okay? So there's nothing positive about this, about the support for PBL. I gave it a new name. I call it pretty bad learning. It's not proficiency-based learning. It's pretty bad learning. Where's the learning when a teacher can't interact with a student. You give them a packet and you let them do it. That's a setup for online classes. Okay? So,
You hear him.
I can't take the gamble with my daughter. That's why I took her out. Okay? Remember, students are falling through the cracks, the talented and the needed, okay? All in the interest of creating a uniform system that is fundamentally, that fundamentally removes the student-teacher relationship and produces a statistic of success on paper. When you tell a student that they can take a test over and over and over again until they get it, they don't have to study. They just keep taking the test. I'll get it right eventually. There's no homework, none. It's not requirement. So fundamentally, the teacher doesn't know how to assess the student. There are 3 triads to teaching, right? Which I'm certain, and I have the utmost respect for every teacher and every administrator in the school system. I am in no way directing this at what you're doing your job, and whatever this system is being pushed on, we need to rethink the situation, okay? But plain and simple, assessment is triangular. There's testing, there's interaction, okay? It's a triad that you're supposed to be doing, not one, okay? The divide will be felt farther than you think. Students from other schools will outperform Auburn's students because there is no driver. SATs will address their issues. They won't do so well. Colleges will probably address their issues with remedial courses. That's happening right now. EL students, they end up at the community college and the University of Maine. Over 50% end up in remedial classes. Remedial classes start with a 0 in front of them. That means they don't count as college credit. They have to pay for that class. And it costs them time. Quality, time, and cost. Those are the functions of value and worth and everything that you hold dear, okay? What is retention? Solid, continuous path. When you throw obstacles in front of a student, you slow them down, they quit. Retention is your key. Remedial classes, not good. You're supposed to be catching that. When they can't do fractions and basic multiplication when they get into a college and can't do decimals and percentages, trust me, that's not the college's fault, okay? Homework, I keep going back to this thing about homework and testing. It boggles my mind that teachers are not speaking up, and I wondered about that. I wondered about it, I really did, because I said, why aren't teachers speaking up? So, the cost of this PBL could have been spent on adding teachers, not consultants and coaches, okay, thus reducing student-teacher ratios. By the way, the statistics, the numbers that those from other schools that have small class ratios using the PBL, it's flat. It doesn't work. So even with small ratios, it doesn't work. Okay? This 1, 2, 3, 4, it doesn't work. Proficiency, to define proficiency with that system and the way you're doing it, you're hearing students talk about it. Where is the challenge? The school committee represents all, even those in opposition. In interest of fairness, you as council must also represent them. You cannot, in my opinion, my humble, respectful opinion, state tonight that we need to be patient. I'm sorry, it's the other way around. You need to be patient and hear us. You can't sit there and say, for us to be patient. It's our kids on the line. You have grandchildren here. I can't believe that you're buying into this. The school sorry, you already read that. The school committee, as it represents those people, in my opinion, you did not. Not to dive into word wars, but the taxpayers and residents of Auburn before you did not come in a small number. Only a small number spoke, okay? Just like tonight. I'm taking up all their time, which is regretful, okay? But they're all taxpayers of Auburn, and they're all residents of Auburn. Others couldn't or feel the system is too great or that it's terrible and they just can't fight that big demon. Okay, it's called policies or democracies or whatever it is that is being represented. The fact remains, we were present. And Mr. Kendall, with all due respect, when you spoke at City Council and you said knee-jerk, and I'm not implying how you use that word, what I am really concerned about was that you only spoke about the opposition that was there, that was a small quantity. You never informed City Council about who was in favor of it that was here that night. Nobody spoke in favor of it that night. To me, that's an injustice to the City Council. It's a disconnect. You as City Council members, and I speak to you as professionals, not on a personal level, I'm not insulting any one of you. This is a job you took to take. You have an obligation to speak to each other as a body. When you talk outside of your group, using words that are inflammatory, they send the party, the discussion in a totally different direction that you should not be letting happen. You really shouldn't be doing that. You have an objectivity at mind. Unfortunately, after I heard that comment, I give you a vote of no confidence, Mr. Kendall, as chairperson. You don't have my vote. I'm sorry. I was wrong. We deserved to hear the unbiased analysis of our meeting at City Council from the leader of this council. You were supposed to speak open-minded about everyone that spoke and what was said, plain and simple, because City Council doesn't know that much about it unless the representatives are here, okay? So the last thing I wanted to speak to is on taxes. As you had so eloquently put today, that you're just starting to implement it. You've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to date on PBL, and our taxes went up.
I didn't say it was, we were just starting to implement it.
I believe when you played the video back, you stated that you're just starting to implement it now.
No, I said we started, but it hasn't, it's taken all of this time to evolve.
Yeah, that's the same wording.
That's what I mean.
In other words, you're not done yet.
That's correct.
Great, you're just starting.
We're evaluating it.
All right, semantics, I take it back.
May I
We will say that you are in process, okay? So here's the thing. You're going to spend more money. You're going to raise our taxes more on a system that is failing, and you expect us all to buy into it. So I have every intention of using my vote at City Council to vote against the budget, not because of the city's side of the budget, not because teachers don't deserve to get a pay raise. They most certainly deserve to get a pay raise. If my taxes go up for education, I'm okay with that. If it's for roads, it's good for that, okay? I'm all right with that. But there's one thing that I'm just not going to vote for, and that is a system that says that St. Dom's students are going to be, by the virtue of this system, okay, advanced ahead of the game to Auburn students, because St. Dom's and the private schools and every other school around us is not doing PBL. You are setting yourself up for a big disadvantage for our students in the workforce, okay, and college. Just have one more final point here. The future graduates of Auburn are going to have an asterisk next to their name, because you know what's going to happen? Someone is going to decide to go after your jobs that you have on this council, and we're going to change it. And we're going to make it right, because this system doesn't work. 1 to 4s don't work. You need homework. You need more student-teacher interaction. You need lower ratios. They do need to get paid more. So I hope my voice, my comments, my honesty tells you I didn't want to take my daughter out of the public school system. I'm the villain. Trust me, she will tell you. okay? She's not with her friends, but I did it because I wanted her to have a good education, and she knows it. She misses her friends. So I intend to vote no on the city budget. And I'm urging anyone who has any semblance of thinking about PBL is wrong to join me and vote no. And keep voting no until you all make a decision and not push this can down the street until after the budget is voted on. I'm going to keep voting no, no matter what, because I want this fixed. And that's my only bargaining chip that I have. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. I'm Suzette Sear. I live at 121 6th Street. I took a few notes and drafted some things that I wanted to talk about because I don't feel that this is just about academics. I'm a healthcare provider, and I want to talk a little bit about educational psychology and our emotional well-being of our children, because I'm very concerned. I feel the education and well-being of our children, it goes hand in hand. And as technology increasingly plays a major role in academics and learning, we need to consider how the use of this technology also impacts our children psychologically and socially. We need to be respectful of the psychological and developmental needs of children when implementing models of learning. So technology and that's a tongue twister. Proficiency-based learning concepts may be able to enhance our children's education if it's implemented in a balanced way. And I ditto what Marnie had to say about the experience with our kids were together in Mrs. Espeo's class in elementary school. And there seemed to be some merits to my daughter understanding what she was doing. And I think that in elementary school, the proficiency model in the 1 through 4 grading system may make more sense, but as our kids move on and they need to be more responsible and take responsibility, it doesn't really transfer over well into middle school and to high school. So, you know, I really think that that there's been a lot of excitement marketed by educational entrepreneurs and philanthropic organizations, and it's all tied to big tech company money, as we know. And I really think that we need to not be fooled by this in the ways that we think that this can completely change our educational system. Because, you know, they have an agenda, and a lot of it is about making profits. I really don't think that it has balanced the science with educational psychology. I know when I went to the seminar, they talked about proficiency-based learning or mass customized learning, that 50% of the learning would be done online with the kids at home on computers. And I'm really concerned about this because there are basic human needs to learning, and there's a developmental process which is really integral in understanding how children learn and retain information. There are social, emotional, and cognitive processes, and in all of the learning that's already integrated into our current educational systems that teachers do so well. Humans and our kids, we're all relationship dependent, and our brains are genetically wired for human social connections and relationship-based learning. All this computer stuff is somewhat really new. You know, and I really think that we need to not disregard that there are some things about the technology that are really stressful for young developing brains. So with the mass customized learning models and the use of Empower School, the kids are being instructed to use the technology for goals, these targets, online electronic drill sheets, homework, and no teachers. And it creates increased isolation and frustration for many of the kids, as well as, there may be some kids that do get some benefit out of understanding more on a deeper level what they're doing at a proficiency base. But as all the other parents have testified here tonight, the downside of that with grading and initiation and effort, creativity, reward, drive, and competition and diversity, it dummies down all of this. And that's what the students have talked about in the meeting here tonight and the last meeting that I was attending a few weeks ago. I really think we need to listen to this and find a middle way to use this. And I do appreciate what you had to say about that, because it kind of acknowledges, yes, that there are some good things about this and there are some problematic things about this. So, we all really need to be listening to our kids. They've been giving us feedback in so many ways about their stress, and it's not just about their academic stress. A lot of it is stress related to use of technology and how they feel pressured to use it in a lot of ways. And I want to talk a little bit more about that, because I think we all forget our kids are vulnerable, and we are too. And growing up in the digital age is really difficult. And I don't think adults have always been responsible to provide safe oversights to protect their vulnerability, their mental health, their emotional well-being, and their psychosocial development. And I was increasingly frustrated when the schools started passing out, iPads and computers for kids to use 24 hours a day. And I voiced my concern that schools also have a responsibility to meet these needs, and looking at the psychology around the high use of technology in learning, because it's not just about academics, and you can't just look at that. You have to look at the whole holistic well-being of our kids. So I'm wondering, has anybody been reviewing and listening about the brain science and research that's out there, and what educational psychology has to say? So one really important thing is, if you want to promote learning, you must promote the quality of emotional, mental, and behavioral health of our kids as well. They can't be stressed out and trying to learn concepts and have things drilled into them, or be isolated and left alone. So, clinical research shows depression and anxiety rates in adolescents is rising, along with suicide of kids. We all know this. It's related. How can we keep disconnecting all of this? The research says kids are spending 6.5 hours a day on devices, and this is not including homework time, okay? It's real evidence. And there's also evidence that the amount of screen time our kids are using is making real changes in their brain. So, evidence also shows when kids are on screens and they're doing rewarding things like texting and their streaks and searches and the things that they also do on their school laptop computers while they're at school or on breaks or even at home. I mean, I sat in front of my daughter while she says she's doing her homework, and the screen changes, and she wasn't on the homework page. She was goofing off. So all of that increases dopamine in the brain. An adolescent's brain does not have regulation of brain chemistry. It's under construction. So what does dopamine do? It helps us feel pleasure, and it increases mood. Dopamine dysregulation is also involved in addictive disorders, okay? There's a lot of direct relationship and evidence that's showing that all this screen time is increasing addiction, not just in adults, but kids. And we're ignoring this, okay? There's clinical evidence also that increased screen time for young kids causes increased arousal, aggressive behavior, sleep dysregulation, loneliness, increased substance use, poor psychological functioning, bullying behaviors, which schools spend an awful lot of time dealing with, right? So I don't see where the book Inevitable, the marketing of all of these academic programs considers any of this. It really bothers me. I really think we need to be weighing the risks and benefits of the use of technology, and we need to design what works for us, what parents and educators know enhances the capacity of our children to grow and learn. We can't disregard the basic psychological principles of human need in learning and be brainwashed by this fancy marketing of new, narrowly focused, high-tech academic models of learning. It's like throwing out the baby with the dirty bathwater. Our kids tell us there's more mental stimulation for them with conversation, collaboration in the form of classroom discussions, and active teaching, and a grading system which rewards diversity and effort. Now, I have 2 kids. My oldest is a senior this year, and I asked her what she'd think of, the mass customized learning and PBL, and this is her quote to me. Now, she's in the Bridge program for the past 2 years, so she hasn't been exposed to this, but she's had several classes when she was a sophomore. And she said, "I do not like being fed standard knowledge and proficiency in an automated way, where my learning is just about meeting targets. My peers and I thrive on a more natural flow of integrative learning, where my natural curiosity and inspiration is sparked." Wow. I mean, that says a lot. So kids need social relational forms of learning, and we should not think that we can automate and replace it with technology, high technology. It's our job as parents and educators to provide the scaffolding that kids need to grow holistically. The transmission of knowledge that buttresses our kids with healthy emotional intelligence, self-worth, analytical, creative thinking abilities, problem-solving skills, and social communication skills. It cannot be done by removing teachers from teaching and replacing them with high-tech screens, and students having their own self-learning experiences on computer. Face-to-face time matters. It matters for our kids, and we must be really looking at the global picture for our kids and the future of our well-being. And I really hope that you consider what I have to say. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Tiz Crowley. I live at 35 University Street. I had no intentions of speaking tonight, so no papers, no notes, which for those who know me personally know that's very unusual. But I was really here to support those in opposition of PBL. However, as you all know me well enough, I can't keep my mouth shut. I am sure that most of you have made up your mind, and I'm not going to change you, nor would be 100 people in this audience. I do have to thank Ward 1's representative for making at least a comment that he is open to change. I'm appreciative that I live in that ward. I came here tonight in opposition for many reasons. First of all, Auburn is my hometown. If anybody didn't know that, I'd be glad to tell you all the reasons why I'm very proud of that. I'm an Edward Little graduate. I am one of those old people. I not only do not have children in school, I don't even have grandchildren in school because my youthful child had to move from the state of Maine to make a living and form a household. So if I had one thing in Auburn that I would work on, it is to keep our students in Maine. They can go learn what they need to do and come back. But that's not the purpose of tonight's meeting. Tonight's meeting is to talk about PBL, and I am opposed to it. And I'm opposed to it because of how other people look at it. Now, you could convert me very easily if you demonstrated that the graduation rate at Edward Little has substantially improved from when I graduated more than 40 plus years ago. But you have not done that. You have excluded me in the surveys. I only paid the bill. And quite honestly, I believe in the rule, he who makes the gold rules. So, well, that gentleman said it more forcefully, I must think about. I know you have supposedly flat-funded, meaning no increase in our state taxes. But is that the only way I get to have input in this decision? If it is, then I'm going to agree with that guy and vote no on the school budget. Not having to do with taxes, but it's because you quite frankly don't give a damn what I have to say. You don't invite me to things, you don't incorporate us, and by me I mean those of us who are over 50 years old who do not have children in school. Which, by the way, the last time I checked, the median age of an Auburn tax voter was 57. I believe that's gone up, so it's probably 59. But as I said, I have no expectations of changing any of your opinions, and I doubt that most of the taxpayers are listening to tonight's meeting. But I would encourage you to think about, if you want to sell the rest of us, tell us how that improves. Demonstrate it improves the graduation rate. I do not believe it does. So I also come from the healthcare industry, which is what somebody mentioned. And I remember back to the mid-90s, that's how old I am, and my high school senior, who was not yet 18, he did that in college, was going off to school in the state of Maine. In their wisdom, was going to have a universal payer system. We're going to have the pine tree insurance. And you say, what the hell does this have to do with PBL? Here's what it did. He's going off to college. We're going to get universal health care in Maine, which sounds like a great idea today, but trust me, 20 years ago, not such a great idea. And I thought, okay, where do I get a gold MasterCard to send him to school? Because that's the only way they're going to measure. It doesn't matter what a 4 means in Auburn, Maine. They care about measurements that everybody else uses. So the 4 in Maine doesn't matter. In the mid-90s, universal health care didn't. Now, if you want to fast forward 20 years from now, I think your idea might be great when other people are on. But they're not on right now. So you are sending our graduating seniors to a significant disadvantage. They will not have the documentation to prove that they are not only proficient, but I would hope exceptional. We have an exceptional community that has a heart and a soul and provides opportunities, and yet it is not going to show up in a number 4. Sitting here tonight, I hear people who are doing an entire grade level higher and they can't get above a 3. I supported mass customized learning. Superintendent Grondin educated the community about this. I've read the book. I support the idea. But if you really want to know how old this is, back when I was in the 6th grade, we did have electricity, and we did have transportation other than horses. But when I was in the 6th grade and I went to Catholic schools, they changed the system. And do you know that since the 6th grade, I have not had grammar? I graduated from Edward Little, and it is because of these changes. I advanced, I love the idea of mass customized learning, to let the child who can excel to excel, but you have to keep the basics of how everybody measures. So whether we're talking about a 5th grader, a junior, or a senior, 4s don't matter. They want to know the difference between a 93 and a 98, just like they want to know the difference between an SAT score of 670 versus 720. I think this is not appropriate for our community at this time. We should focus on graduating better qualified students so we do not have to have them in remedial classes. As I said, I don't expect any of you to change your mind, but I'm hoping that a few people will be listening and maybe they can reach out to you. I thank you for your time and attention.
Hi. Can you hear me okay? So I have copies for each of committee members. I'm just going to read something quickly because I'm not as eloquent at speaking off the cuff. My name is Laura Gilpatrick, and I live at 41 Court Street in Auburn. My daughter Catherine's a graduating senior at EL, and my son Ben is finishing up 8th grade at AMS. I was unable to attend the City Council meeting Monday night as AMS had their spring concert for band and chorus, and my Ben is in both. I did, however, go and watch the broadcast via YouTube and was quite alarmed at some of the commentary that I heard. Several statements were made by Mr. Kendall that troubled me. He mentioned that PBL was a term that couldn't be defined or was hard to define or was a term that had never been used by the Auburn School Department and was a bit of a misnomer. There were surprising statements and frankly somewhat confrontational in nature, considering the outpouring of commentary and testimonials from parents and students and teachers surrounding this very subject. All the outpouring all one needs to do is look at the Auburn School Department Task Force process document to see very clearly that our school system is well acquainted with PBL or PBE. This is the entire focus of the task force. Quote, the purpose to review questions and concerns raised about proficiency-based education and recommend actions to address them. To say that you can't easily define it after all we've been through over the past 7 years building to this is outrageous and frankly offensive. Whether you call this mass customized learning, proficiency-based learning, or proficiency-based education, it all refers to the same principles. And to sit there and say on the record that you can't define it makes me question your judgment as the chair of the school committee. I think you owe the parents, students, teachers, and this community an apology for making these types of statements. This is not the way to mend fences or show collaboration or build back any lost trust. I believe that at the core, this committee, as well as all in the room, only want what is best for our students. I do believe that, but I worry that we are placing our emphasis in the wrong areas. To also insinuate that these objections to PBL and PBE are only from a dozen or so people over the past couple of months is laughable. There have been active and involved parents that remember sitting in the ELHS gym back when we were presented with excerpts from the book Inevitable. It spoke of the opportunities this afforded our kids with, especially surrounding the math program and how we would look to make some gradual changes over the years in respect to this. At the time, I, like many of folks in this room, had some reservations, but did not maybe think that there was the same sense of urgency that we are seeing now. So no, it is not a dozen or so of us within the last few months. It's many, many, many of us over the past few years that have been gradually asking questions, looking for feedback, seeking guidance, and trying to understand the direct impact this will have on our students. So now, yes, I'm more vocal than I've ever felt I've needed to be before, and that's because I fear for my son entering EL in the fall and what the curriculum is going to look like, how he will be assessed and judged, how he will see that feedback and the technology that has been chosen for us to help him manage that progress. I worry that we are all wasting our time testing out a flawed process on our kids. They don't have the time to waste. We heard it best when we listened to our very own Mayor Levesque share his own personal story and experience transferring his daughter out of ELHS after her sophomore year to a private school because of mass customized learning. He also was very clear that his office has received, quote, dozens and dozens of emails and phone calls since he took office, and that this was not a one-off time event that is stemming from back in 2010 to 2011. I think that speaks volume when our mayor says, quote, add me to that list of dozens that are concerned. I think you need to start really listening to what is and has been said over the years about these very real, relevant, and consistent concerns. This is not a unique issue to Auburn. If you listen to the testimony provided in Augusta last month regarding PBL and proficiency-based diplomas, you can see that clearly other districts are struggling with this as well. There needs to be a middle ground that we can take here. I don't think anyone is asking this committee to throw out all of the work they've invested in these initiatives. But again, I implore you, look at this as a lessons learned. Take from it what may be working well and toss what is not. Understand what your students need and your community is pleading with you to give them. If we are all truly on the same page and want to see our students succeed, as I'm sure we all do, please reconsider some of these initiatives. Please go back to the 0 to 100 grading system and implement a more user-friendly grading assessment system like Power School and get rid of Empower. Thank you for your consideration.
Chairman Kendall, can I speak a word? I sat 2 hours through the other night without talking, and I'm bursting at the seams here.
Go ahead,
I'll be
Bob.
quick. I want all of you people to know that no one is questioning PBL more than me. I asked Superintendent Grondin if this is working, prove it to us, and if it's not, let's move on. For the next 18 months, I pledge to you all that no one will ask more questions than I. And I have a grandson who's at Edward Little at age 15. I was at the University of Maine at age 17. And I say to him, Teague, you don't want to be in high school and be so old that you don't know anyone else who's there with you. I will ask questions time and time again and ask for documentation. If it's working, great. If it's not, let's move on. And thank you all for coming here. And I'm sorry, I'm just bursting at the seams with frustration. And Mr. Kendall and the mayor sometimes both frustrate me.
I too have sat here since April. And if anybody knows me, I never keep my mouth shut. And I've kept my mouth pretty shut on this whole issue to the public. I've listened to you. I understand what you're saying. I too have had big question marks all over the place with this since the beginning. I don't like change. And I hear what you're saying on it. However, at this point, I think that we are far beyond just changing the grading system. If that would work, and I said it when Laura Garcia spoke the very first night after the meeting, let's change the darn grading system. And there's other issues that we need to do. There's other issues that we need to look at. But I think that we need to begin to think about changing the grading system, looking at what's going on with the teachers, to be sure that our staff is on target with what we're doing on it. And I know there's 2 over there that are just bursting in the seams, or 3 that are looking teachers. But I have to say that I've always questioned from the beginning, how much money are we spending? What else are we doing with this on it? So I think at this point, I've heard you loud and clear. We've had no opportunity to speak among ourselves except one time at a workshop.
I'll let you know why. It's against the law. It is against the law for more than 4 of us, or 3?
3.
3 of us to get together without it being a public meeting. So we are not allowed by law to have those conversations as a group unless it is in a public meeting. So that's why we had a workshop.
That was
a workshop, and that was...
Why haven't you done that in the last 7 years?
It's not the 7 years, Pete. It's not the 7 years. But Barbara, it's not this, please. It's not the 7 years that we've done it. We've talked about it, that we have not talked about this situation with a room full of people. We have not discussed that once. I was away, so I was not able to attend on it. But we have not been able to go anywhere and talk about it. Dinner, nowhere. We have not been able to talk about it. Right or wrong, we should be able to sit and...
For a public forum months ago, and you turned us down.
Excuse me. Mr. Thistle, Mr. Thistle.
All right.
No.
We also said that we'd like to have a task force, and it was said, you're not interested in the task force. Mrs. Garcia said that. No?
I got up to speak. Do you think that could happen?
All right.
But could we please
Let's
let
settle
this
down.
person speak? We have somebody who wants to speak.
Yes, I
Let her-
know. And-
Let her
Sorry, I
speak,
cut in
please.
front of you.
Well, it's not just you, it's,
So,
Sorry.
but
It's
I
the
was
public's
nervous
turn
enough
to
to come up
speak.
here and speak, so, I didn't plan to speak tonight, but hearing everything that's going on, I really had to. I moved up here from Georgia because I thought maybe my kids would have a great opportunity to go to school and be close to their grandparents, and they're in grade school, and I keep hearing how PBL and parts of it are working for grade school. Well, it's not working for my kids, and I know that it's not working for other parents either. I have two kids that are vastly different. My youngest wants to just please me all the time. She wants to make me happy. My oldest wants to sit on the couch and play with his tablet. So when he started kindergarten, it was the year that you guys rolled out the tablets for kindergartners, which gave me time to pause and say, you know, I should be the one at that age in charge of how much technology he accesses. Also right through probably 4th or 5th grade, because when he gets home from school, he wants to go on the tablet. How do I know how many hours he's been on it at school? I don't want my kids in front of a screen 10 hours a day. So from what I understand with the PBL, it's going to be very tech-focused. I think kids should be learning technology, but it shouldn't be the majority of their learning is done through technology. Sorry, I'm like shaking. You know, my youngest who wants to shine, when she was in kindergarten, she would come home and have 4s on her report card because she's great at coloring. Now she's in 4th grade and she hasn't seen a 4 in many years. And it makes her sad. And it makes her think that she can't get a 4, which, from my understanding, she can. So what do these kids have to look forward to? What do they have to work for? What do they have to compete? They don't compete with themselves. They don't compete with other kids. You know, it's an important part of them learning is to be able to say, oh, I got a C, but I can bring that up to a B. I can bring it to an 86. They can't. They can get a 2 or a 3. Beyond that, it just seems that there's really low expectations, that they don't, to meet proficiency, that's it, that they don't have science fairs and stuff like that anymore to let them shine. The other issue I have is my son has an IEP in place. I know there's been some confusion amongst his teachers about which targets they're supposed to meet and how can they meet the targets that are laid out by the school system when he has individual targets to meet. And the amount of money spent to roll this out could have been used on the additional teachers that are being, in ed techs that are being pulled out of his classrooms where he's supposed to have them there. He has an IEP. They're removing ed techs to put them as substitutes. I mean, it just, if you don't have the money to pay teachers to properly educate them, how do you get the money to roll out an entirely new way of learning? Question? Answer?
My name's Riley Lacasse, and I'm an 8th grader at Auburn Middle School.
Pull the mic a little bit closer if you would, please. Thank you.
Pull it down like this.
There you go.
There you go.
The only thing I really want to say is I think for a lot of me and my peers, we struggle a lot with the motivation piece of and power in PBL, and also I think a lot of us have a really big fear of what it's leading towards our future. A lot of us have asked our teachers some questions regarding our future and PBL and what that means, and they don't have any answers. And it's always, we don't know. So I think motivation and future are our biggest concerns right now.
We'll take one more, and then we're going to close public participation so we can have our students make their presentation. Then we'll open it back up if parents do want to stay. So, yeah. Have you?
My name is Lisa Day. I live at 34 Dillingham Hill Road. I just have a question because I don't have knowledge that goes really far back. My question when I leave these meetings, every time I've come, this is the third time, is how did we get to this point? What was wrong with the 0 through 100? How did we even get into the position of spending thousands and thousands of dollars and going down a path that we didn't know anything about? I know you guys can't respond. I'd love to hear an answer, though.
We deserve an answer for that. So anytime you feel like
I think the motivation for change.
Well, wait, my question was, Tom, what was wrong with the initial?
That's what I was going to
Okay.
say, the initial problem. And I think Mr. Marino mentioned it. The number of remedial classes that our students had to take, over 50%, I think he noticed, yeah, Dan, he said over 50% of our graduates under the old system, which I'm going to call the old system because none of the graduates yet have participated in what's being considered proficiency-based at this point. So he identified very accurately that public education has been failing for actually quite a while. That failure, in our opinion, at least in my opinion, and I believe the board back in the time, was that we needed to change because we were not being successful. And we did research, and we evaluated, and we discussed, and we talked with what we considered the experts. We did the research and the reading on what we considered was the change that perhaps would lead us out of the morass we were in. We began that 7, almost 8 years ago now, very slowly implementing that, exploring it very carefully every step of the way. I can't say that our implementation has been flawless. It certainly hasn't. The effect of its realization in this year has certainly hit everyone smack in the face, apparently, a good number of them. Partly, hard for me to say this, but partly because I don't think it's well understood, and that means we didn't present it very well.
But 7 years of time, and I don't know what the total money spent in that 7 years is, probably pretty drastic. And we have no idea if it's good or bad.
There's no idea, yeah.
To answer your question, the way we got to the 1 through 4 grading is we had put into place the learning targets. So based on the proficiency-based diploma work as well. So when we started, it really was about classroom climate and culture. So we were doing a lot of work around giving students voice and choice, doing standard operating procedures. So there was a lot of work around shifting the way our classrooms run to make them more student-focused, student ownership. That was the beginning of the work. And so as you progressed, a couple of things interfaced with it. One was the teacher evaluation system and picking a teacher evaluation model that we were required to do, and we aligned our work with Marzano's work. So the things that we were doing around climate and culture, lesson design, things that we were working with our teachers on, design and delivery, how do you raise the rigor in your classroom, how do you do unit planning, that work was going on. And then we began with Marzano to align the current work that we were doing to Marzano's expectation, measuring our teacher effectiveness. Then came in the proficiency-based diploma. And you're right, we chose to move to the 1 through 4 proficiency scoring. We, last year, teachers were doing, I think it was a couple years, we discussed having to hold students accountable to targets to meet the proficiency-based requirements. And so teachers were starting to use those targets and assessing. And we had discussion, I'm thinking, and they can correct me, a couple years ago around do we do the 100-point scale with also you scoring things on proficiency. So if you give an assignment, the assignment's going to get a 100-point scale score, and then you're going to document meeting the proficiency level of the target. That also occurred last year. They were doing the dual system. So we made a decision to move because K through 6 doesn't see the 100-point scale. So we moved to 7th and 8th and 9th, knowing the 9th graders would be the first class that we have to demonstrate to the staff, to the state, the proficiency base.
But from what I've heard, and like I said, I don't have a lot of knowledge.
That's fine.
This is not the law.
Correct.
So if we're 7 years in and an unknown amount of money,
right,
is it all or none at this point? Are we just sticking on this path?
And I have said this, although it's not being heard, we are open to change.
What's the time frame?
So the time frame is, I think the task force set June 20th school committee meeting. There are 4 meetings. All the data's coming in. All the people sitting here, I'm assuming everything you're saying tonight is going to be on the survey. All that data is going to the task force.
But do the people on the task force really have a say, or you guys ultimately make the decision?
Just a minute, there are 3 school committee members on the task force.
I know, but I mean the ultimate decision to either combine 0 through 100 with 1 through 4, go back to the traditional way, or continue on this path. Who gets that ultimate decision? You guys sitting up here?
We will do it collectively. No, we will do it collectively.
When does that decision take place?
We're going to make the decision after the 4 meetings of the task force. It could be made at the next task force.
There may be more than 4 meetings. We just set.
No, but I think the deadline, like you, I mean, there's an urgency. We hear the urgency.
I know, but the thing that bothers me most is when Tom sits here and says that you guys sitting up here tonight have never collectively had a conversation about this. How do we know you're going to converse?
Okay,
you
so
guys
you wanted to hear my answer, okay? So this is the answer.
It seems very vague and very...
Right, so I'm going to give you the answer.
Okay.
Since November, we have been, and the teachers sitting there, they know, we've had meetings, we've had discussions about this. We understand the concerns. I have repeatedly said that. We have a task force to get balanced perspective on what's going on. People need to trust the survey results. The survey results are supporting what the audience is saying today.
And what happens if a third of the parents fill it out just because
they haven't?
2/3 choose not to or don't know about it?
It's fine. We're going with what comes in. There will be change next year. And you can come back on June 20th and yell at me if you think I lied. I am not a liar, and I am telling you right now, we are being transparent, we are collecting the survey data, and people don't want to trust it. But I'm telling you right now that there will be change next year. The task force is going to discuss it, and there are things that need to be put in place. I want the same thing, the best for the students, the teachers and staff, and the parents sitting here and parents at home, parents who couldn't come here. There's a process. We have the same urgency as you do, but we're doing it in a thoughtful way to make sure that we don't make a change that then people are going to say, well, why did you do that? You didn't even ask us. So we're trying to take a holistic approach. I know what the point is tonight is to continue to hammer at it. We've heard this. I've heard it. They've heard it. Administration has heard it. The staff had heard it. We are listening. I go to classrooms and I ask students. I listen to teachers. I listen to administration. We are working on this. I have the same urgency. I have the same passion and care about this school department.
Okay, because
So I want to be heard that they are not willing to hear. And I am telling you right now, there will be changes next year. That's what I'm telling you. And if I'm wrong, you can come in here with your pickets after me. I'm telling you what's going to happen. And I say it, but they don't want to hear it.
I hear what you're saying. All I'm saying is that I hear it's been 7 years, and we still don't even know where we're at.
We do know where we're at.
We do?
Yes, we do.
Because it sounds very confused. It sounds, people are on many different pages, teachers, parents, students. So it sounds very confused to me. Nobody's on the same page.
Yes. Yep.
And therefore, I feel like we don't know where we are. It's very uncertain and very up in the air. And we've spent 7 years and we don't know which path we're headed on or how much money has been spent.
Right. We do know all that. We are on a, you're right, there has been a path. We're checking adjustment on this issue. We know what the issues are, and we're going to be addressing them. Okay? Right.
The only thing I would ask is that you all fill out your surveys, please, because the more we hear from more of you, the more we're going to represent those things that we're hearing. If we're only hearing from a select group of people, that's all we're going to know. But the more we hear from all of you, the more accurate our work will be, because we're going to respond to that work. And we will fix what is broken, and we will keep what is good, and we will tweak things that need to be tweaked. So we're hearing you, and I felt good about the task force, and I'm on it, because I'm the counselor on the council, so I represent the council. The others here are all school committee members, in case you don't understand how that goes. But, I really feel that this is an opportunity to make a change where it's needed. And the more we hear from you through the surveys, because there are questions there that help us analyze the data. I believe in data. I need to see the data to say, okay, this is not okay, this is okay, we can fix this. So please spread the word and have people really send that survey in, because I had asked for a little more time to have people respond. I know you guys are busy, and so please, if you can do one thing for sure, tell people, send those surveys in, please.
It was in the paper this morning, big headlines on the page, on the second city page. Well,
we have been robocall. I think a second one went. It's been out through Facebook, through Twitter.
I didn't get a robocall.
Either did I, Dan, because I'm not signed up for robocalls.
It is in the paper. Right.
And it's gone up. Shelley, has it gone out?
It's on the Facebook page, too.
Has it gone out on paper for kids to, in their backpacks?
Has not gone in backpacks.
Okay.
The task force discussed that. The task force members, you can answer that. I believe it.
I asked if the page could go home, and I was told no, because people could fill out more than one. So here we're hearing it again. Let's get it out to a broader.
Can I make a comment? You don't need to worry about the survey results. They're going to support you. So because we've already seen.
Because there's been such an ample amount filled out already.
There's about 350 that have been filled out. On average, we ask principals, on average, what do you get on the return of your surveys? And they don't get that high return. So we think that we have had an excellent return. We need to move to that.
Okay.
Right? Okay.
Can I just say something? This is the first time that I've really dialogued with you all, because the process up until tonight, we couldn't speak, so.
Well, I can say for myself, I definitely appreciate you answering questions, because we have questions, and to get no answer back and to just sit there, it doesn't get us anywhere.
That was my question.
I feel like we're wasting our time showing up here, giving you our huge concerns, and then getting nothing back.
Well,
so
that's
I appreciate
very frustrating from this side also.
Right, it's very frustrating.
So if you appreciate with Dan, I don't feel good about arguing and kind of thing back and forth which I felt like I was arguing with you, but I really wasn't. I was just trying to express my thoughts also. So I think maybe if we can perfect this a little better, maybe we can actually.
I wasn't arguing.
Well, no, but I mean, we were going back and forth, and I was feeling very uncomfortable about that.
I wasn't going back and forth.
Good, I'm glad.
I'm trying to get control of my conversation, and then you can talk when you're done. That's all I was trying to do.
Okay, no, I wasn't.
And I have
See,
to,
I don't know how to do
I
this.
have to.
I appreciate it.
I have to agree with
Thank
Mrs.
you,
Gucci.
Lisa.
I have to agree with Mrs. Gucci.
Thank you for your
We have,
comments. Thank you. Thank you, Lisa.
Close public comment now, and we're going to move on to the student presentation. And if the public would like to speak after the students are done, we'll open it back up.
All right. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, pull up a couple more chairs. Yeah.
All right, yeah.
So we have two groups
Yeah.
of students that are going to share things that they're doing in their councils and their alliances. They can introduce themselves, and you've been doing a lot of excellent work at EL, and it's great for the community to hear all the good work you're doing. And their teachers are here that help their advisors. So jump right in. Introduce yourselves.
Introduce yourselves, please.
All right, so one of the groups here today, and that is Jalen, who's the vice president. I'm the president. Olivia and Kiara are also members. We are the, and Benedict. Okay, so we are the Culture, Leadership, and Spirit Student Council at Edward Little High School. And we meet on a weekly basis, 7 o'clock a.m. Most of the people are half asleep, but we still get some stuff done. We try, so it's our advisors, Mr. Gibson and Mr. Latusha, just started this group this year. And our goal is to promote a better culture, more school spirit through leadership of all the members of this council. We want to establish a climate that embodies the spirit of what it really means to be a member of the Edward Little family, both in and out of the classroom. And we hope to offer a variety of programs and services. So we've done some things this year, but hopefully more next year, that will serve as stepping stones towards positive school spirit. Our student council and faculty are committed to success both in and out of the classroom. And with the help of the parents and community members, which will really, I don't know, it'll help us. It'll provide everyone with lifelong learning experiences that you can't necessarily get from classroom experiences. Jalen's going to tell you a little bit about the purpose.
So the purpose of our group and why we just brought it back this year is we've noticed a lot of separation at our school in EL, and we don't want to see those cracks. We want to see everyone come together and join together to create a positive and successful experience for everyone at Edward Little High School and in the community. So we've participated this year in some events. We started off in November with our group going to some leadership conferences, one with John Jenkins, and we went, a couple of us, just the executive board this year, went to the Maine Youth Leadership Day at the Hyde School, where we saw Travis Mills talk, say a speaker to us, and we got to see how many other schools are implementing this and have been in the past, and their successes.
We've also, so Jalen's the head of the Public Relations Committee. We have 4 committees in the group, and she's been doing actually a lot of work. She's created a Eddie's editorial, so a newspaper talking about what we do, but also what's going on in the school. We have department highlights, so she does little bios of every teacher and puts them up in the hallways so people can actually know some of the 100+ faculty at Edward Little High School. This fall we did the Eddie's 1,000 Strong event, which was Mr. Gibson's idea. He really got onto that and got us going. And we collected 1,000, more than 1,000 actually. We collected a lot of bottles and cans and clothes and toys and stuff, and we donated them to homeless shelters and food pantries. And I think, I don't know, that was really cool for all of us to do. We'd collect all the cans and stuff. It was a little competition within the group to see who could get the most. And we took them in some trucks and brought them out to the shelters. And people were really grateful for that, and it was great to see that we could have such an impact in the first year, in the first 3 months of being formed. We also, we did Winter Carnival this year, so it was, normally there's a Spirit Week and then there's a March Mania, but we kind of took over March Mania and turned it into Winter Carnival. And I think it was really cool. We had, so there were 5 teams actually, the 4 classes and then the teacher team. And the teachers came out gunning to win. We had, like, my math teacher was doing the plunger race across the gym floor where you put a plunger and sit on a scooter. And she was going pretty hard. I think I have a new respect. And we had, like, every single, we had mini golf in the hallways, which was pretty difficult. Yeah. Miss Galway got a black eye, guidance counselor playing ultimate frisbee. She went up for a big catch and then got hit in the eye. But, and then at the end of the week, we had a bonfire to celebrate, like, everything that we'd done. Also, I should mention that the junior class did take a huge win in the Winter Carnival. So, sorry guys. The bonfire, it was really fun to see the teachers, like, throwing the wood on the fire. And I don't know, they got pretty into it. But I really liked how the Winter Carnival brought the school together as a community, because there's really not a lot of times where you see that when you're attending a school with almost 1,000 kids. You go to your classes, if you're, like, taking higher level classes, you see pretty much the same students every day, and then you see them after school. And then you kind of realize at these things like Winter Carnival and March Mania that there's a wider community and that it's more important than just the people making it up. It's something that you can't get anywhere else. So, what? Say something? Okay.
I'll say something.
Jalen wants to say something.
Something about the Winter Carnival that I definitely noticed with the student body is you weren't just cheering on your class or your friends, you were cheering on everyone. We made it so that you could only participate in a certain number of events because we were trying to get everyone to participate, and we really wanted to see not just one group of students participating, like the athletic students. We wanted everyone participating, and that's why we created a variety of events that would appeal to every student, different type of kids there.
Okay. And we also did, for National Teacher Appreciation Week, which was last week, we did a teacher breakfast, and we did awards to different teachers, maybe like fastest talker, most addicted to coffee. That was a tough one. And then we also gave gifts to the secretaries and assistant principals. And I thought that was really nice. Like, we got so much positive feedback from the teachers. Some of them we didn't even know, but they were really happy with what we'd done. And I think that's something that's really important, to take a moment to appreciate the people that are working so hard to help you. And last thing that we did, which was not the last thing that we did, but I'd like to mention it. We went to the Cultural Thanksgiving put on by the CSA, and they can probably tell you more about that. But I think that was a really powerful experience for about half the group who could make it. We were really opened up to a lot of new cultures, and that is partially what they are about. So let's hear from Shadia.
Hi, I'm Shadia. I'm a senior representative of the ELHS Cultural Alliance, and I'm here with my partner Benedict Kalanda. She's a sophomore, and we're going to be telling you guys a little bit about the CSA.
The ELHS Cultural Alliance represents 23 cultures that are part of our school community.
The Alliance's goal is to spread knowledge about culture in Auburn in order to promote better communication and collaboration among citizens of Maine.
This year, the Cultural Alliance was led by our seniors, who worked together with our upperclassmen to host a few large events.
Our first event was the ELHS Cultural Thanksgiving that was held in November in the EL Gym. Many staff and students attended. Students from ELHS, teachers, administrators, and parents had all come together for a sit-down meal that featured dishes that were important and that represented people's cultures.
Students had a great time, great conversations, and tried dishes from all around the world.
The second large-scale event to take place was to help Mrs. Town's Maine Cultural Heritage course in presenting their temporary exhibit, Stories of Immigration, designed by seniors and Alliance members Sarah Kalanda, her sister, and Musa Farah, held at the Museum LA a few weeks ago.
As a result of the exhibition that featured oral histories of recent immigrants to Auburn, students created timelines, food, and a fashion show with an attendance of 75 people and a request from the museum LA to work on a permanent exhibit that will update the museum story of immigration to Maine next year. This was a huge accomplishment of our students and student leaders.
Lastly, as we do every year, we hosted our spring ELHS Cultural Night with the help and contributions of students from ELHS and Lewiston High Schools. The night featured speakers that told stories from their homelands, slam poetry, a cultural artifact question and answer table, student historical sketch notes, song, dance, and it was culminated with a fantastic fashion show.
These events take us all year to plan, and our Alliance meets every Tuesday after school and is completely student-run with oversight and recommendations from Mrs. Towns.
Next year, our Alliance will move ahead with new leadership and new locations for some of our events. We invite all Auburn community members, parents, staff, teachers, and students to join us when we invite and have new articles that appear and advertise our events.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is the finance report.
The Finance Committee, Faith and Francois Boussier and I and Adam met on May 14th on Monday morning, I think it was. We reviewed the funds, we reviewed the finance report for the month of March, I believe it was. April. On it, we're okay. We're doing well. We've been watching different line items. We're still watching them. We're not going to hit the budget by 100%, but we're gonna be within the figures. So due to the late hour, you've all received this, and we're on target. And that's it.
Any questions for Bonnie or Adam or Faith? Seeing none, I'd take a motion to approve the finance report for April 2018.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor? Thank you. All right, I'll open it back up for public comment. Close this meeting. So, anyone else would care to?
Hi, my name is Paige, and I am a student at AMS. And I remember back in 6th grade when we were doing projects, our grading system was 1, 2s, 3s, and 4s, like it is now. And I remember looking forward to 7th grade and hearing about, the A's, B's, and C's. And I heard about how, just really how awesome it was. It was so different. And I heard a lot of good stuff about it, and I was looking forward to it. And 7th grade really motivated me to get A+, and I ended up getting really good grades, and I was very proud of myself. Rumors started to go around that there was going to be a new grading system, 1, 2s, 3s, and 4s, and we were all confused by this. We didn't know much about it. Come 8th grade year, I remember looking at the website for the first time. There was a bunch of symbols and captions. I didn't know what any of it was. And I asked my teachers, what does this mean? How do I get around this website? How do I use it? No one could answer my questions. No one understood what the scores meant. And I know that a lot of people were, my parents especially, were combining. They were saying, is a 4 an A? We asked teachers, still no answers. I feel like a lot of my peers and me were very confused. We still are. And it's really affecting my learning as far as motivation-wise. I haven't felt as motivated to work hard. So, yeah.
Hi, my name is Mary Tucker, And I'm just getting into all of this in the past week. I've been hearing it from all of my grandchildren, which I have 9 in the system, 1 in each grade level.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm hearing a lot. So when I first jumped into this 3 or 4 days ago, I understood that the proficiency-based diploma standards were mandated by the state. So I went on the Maine Department of Education and found out that that's far from the truth. They are recommending that the school boards meet with parents to put in a plan for each student to be able to learn. At this broad-based system, more than half of the students don't even have internet, let alone the computer time only at school, and they're being left behind. In my experience of the 35 years, and part of that as an employee of the city of Auburn, there certainly needs to be some drastic changes. As the state is recommending that it be a personal, individual learning process for each child. And I believe with the amount of taxes that we pay and with revamping the system within the last 10 years, the millions, so-called, money that was saved, there's plenty room there for teachers to be paid an adequate salary and perhaps promote better teaching. In some incidents, there are two students that I know that are going into the 7th grade next year, but can only read the level of a 3rd grade. That's pretty bad teaching. Somebody should be held accountable. And my other concern is the bullying policy in the school system, which I haven't found one yet on the internet. When a kindergarten student starts kindergarten, and the only thing that he learned for the whole year is how to be a bully because he's been bullied so much, I think it's time for change as well. The bullying policy needs to be enforced by teachers, not just, I'll talk to them. When you're getting chairs thrown at you and they're looking the other way, they've decided not to go to Edward Little, they go to the alternative school because the bullying is getting too bad. There really needs to be something put in place to stop it. It would be sad to hear about any more students committing suicide from the middle school. I know about 10, and I'm sure a lot of you never even heard of one. And the broad-based system, I'm just going to plainly say, I don't approve of it. It doesn't work for every student. And putting more computers into the school system, I believe, is a bad idea. But I have here the updated Maine State Statute on Proficiency-Based Diploma. If anybody wants to go on the internet, you can read it in length, and the new provisions on it that is going to be set forward within the next 2 weeks, I understood. And I also would like to see the less size of a class student. I'd like to see the school follow the law, which at the high school level is 1 to 17, middle school 1 to 16, and under that is 1 to 15. And you can also read that online. And those are state mandates, not my dream, because it would be lower. And hopefully that will be taken into consideration when the new building is being built as well. And I can say, you know, my children went through the Auburn system and they did well. My grandchildren are not doing well at all. Not at all. It's sad to see a teenager who can't even write her own name to sign her Social Security card. There needs to be a big change in the system. We really need to have individual learning for each student because nobody learns the same. And this is not just an Auburn problem, this is a statewide problem. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I won't be long. I just wanted to clarify a couple statements and comments that were made. Dan Marino, 3 Bourbon Street, Auburn, Maine. Remedial classes is what you think is the cause of why you're making this change, is what I understood you to say. That was the main reason for doing PBL, was because of remedial classes. I will give you time to address it. Let me just finish mine, because I agree with, I don't want it to be an argument. It's not an argument, okay? Student-teacher ratios need to be smaller. You need to have trained professionals deal with student issues, not the teacher. They get distracted. I was a guest lecturer in Eric Eisman's class teaching CAT for a whole semester. I saw it for a whole semester, the issues he had to deal with. I encourage you to do that as well. An entire semester, stay in one class and get a good snapshot of what goes on in the classroom, because they deal with a lot. And I had said at the last meeting that when you were going to put half of a full-time employee to address these issues, deep down I said to myself, well, that just means they're going to hire one of the teachers to put more work on their plate and take care of that issue, rather than hire someone full half-time who you won't be able to get because they won't work part-time. They're going to want benefits in the whole bit. So I really think when it comes to the survey, your survey is lacking. It needs relevant data in it. It should say in it, the section for teachers, are you overwhelmed? Are you capable of controlling the content delivery of your class? Nothing. There was nothing in there about substance, about deliverables of a classroom for the teacher. Nothing in there on that. To me, students, they need to have their part in that survey too, to ask those questions and to say what's going on and for commentaries. And then the question about transparency. I think in light of, again, I'm an advocate for government doing what they have to do, okay? Don't get me wrong. And Mr. Kendall, my comment, reason why I lost faith in you was because, to me, that's not a comment you make. You're supposed to be impartial. So I'm saying it because I'm a voter. I'm expecting you to act as an advocate for me, even when you oppose me, okay? All of you. But you're supposed to give us the chance to give the feedback. What I'm finding out from just sitting here in the audience is there are a lot of parents that they're finding out that you guys haven't talked, you guys haven't done your research, you haven't done anything, and yet this system is moving forward. That's disheartening. Transparency. It was good that that was actually said. It was an eye-opener. I think you should have a sense of relief saying that you got it out in the open and you can say, yeah, we haven't talked about it, we haven't done this, we don't even know what PBL puts onto one particular label. you know, because that says a lot. When you didn't know what the survey was, that's also something that is very enlightening, because you should all know the survey. The stats are coming back. They're flat. So you can't say it's going to help you with remedial classes when they get into a college or university, because that line's just going to move forward. They're going to be flat there like they are now. They're still going to need remedial classes. So one of the things that I found most intriguing about technology is sometimes I agree with the notion of too much technology is bad. And then I also agree with the notion not enough technology is bad, because we are in a fast-moving society. So everything happens like this. When kids can't do simple multiplication table math to give an answer right off the bat because they got to figure out why 9 times 9 is 81 when I can say it because I was taught the old memorization way. So that's troubling. And as an employer, that's also troubling, because we expect people not to be as fast as computers, but to be faster than the employer themselves in the way they were taught math. That's also very bad. So when it comes to where you measure things, there are third world countries that have higher reading literacy rates than the United States of America, and they're 90 miles off the coast of Florida. They don't have great schools, but they make sure their kids can read. So to me, the argument or the statement about how to address the issues of education, it's really time, contact between teacher and student. It was great hearing that whole story with those kids. It was great. I didn't even know that he did that. I was really, really impressed with that's going on there. In such a big school, I was like, wow, that must be quite the awesome thing to happen in a school that size. So I really think in that understanding of transparency, you need to disclose everything. Don't put speed bumps in front of you that are just going to slow you down later on. Get it all out in the open and say what's on. How much money have you spent? Okay. What consultants have you used? What did you pay for them? Okay. How much time was truly put into this? And then measure that result at present and say, are we on par? Are we behind the 8 ball? Are we ahead of the 8 ball? We do this in business, so we should be doing it here as well. So the issue of remedial classes, when you're letting a student take a test over and over and over again until they get it right, you're giving them remedial classes to take because there's no drive for them to sit there and learn the material. They're just going to do it again. I'm repeating myself only because the issue of remedial classes in the university and PBL, those are not related, because if PBL didn't have that piece that lets a student take a test as many times as they want, then there's accountability. Okay? But he can't, I just don't see where that's going. And then the last part that I want to restate, because I want it on the record. Edward Little High School, the old one, should be converted to a regional vocational tech center like Lewiston's. You need to address the residents of Auburn, not be the 20% of Lewiston's population.
Dan.
Can I answer you?
Dan, actually, we are addressing the vocational technical school. However, there are 16 technical schools in the state, okay?
I know.
Or 20 in the state.
I know.
Okay?
I just want it on record.
There's more, okay? We have to respect that we're in the district that Lewiston has the technical school, okay? We can send so many kids in it. We are addressing the issue if we can be a satellite, if we can have some classes here that they don't have. We have to respect them. That's it. So all your information is great, but sometimes we need to be sure that we know exactly what's going on.
I agree, but my point was that you can change policy. You can be an advocate to change that policy.
And we are. We are.
So that we are not supporting Lewiston and we are supporting ourselves.
Dan, the number of CTE schools in the state is a legislative decision.
Right.
If
It could be changed.
Then, go ahead.
Just like PBL, it can be changed.
Then
Everything
try
in a
it.
democracy.
We've been screaming about this for years.
I agree, but all I'm saying is I want it on the record. I want you, as my representatives, to be an advocate for Auburn having its own. It doesn't mean
I agree.
you have
I agree.
to cave, okay? Thank you.
Hi, my name is Pam Hart. I live at 106 Lake Street. I hadn't really planned on talking today. I guess, let me try to articulate this because I have nothing written down and it's kind of spur of the moment. I feel that there is a huge disconnect between, and also a disdain towards parents. I am one of those, whatever you said, group of parents with a knee-jerk reaction. And the thing is I've been coming to multiple of these meetings. I've been a parent that has volunteered countless hours in the school, especially when my kids were in elementary school. I was the volunteer MA helping the teachers. I cut up countless box tops to raise money for school. I was a box top Nazi. Everywhere I saw them, I was grabbing them. My kids were laughing at me. I saw one on top of a garbage can. I grabbed one. I'm like, hey, that's 10 cents for school. I've always been a huge advocate of the school. I have come to every city council meeting defending the school committee's budget. I've been on a school committee work task force before with the half-day Wednesday. And so it really hurts me and it bothers me that, like Katie, you're getting mad and you're saying, well, you can come back with your pitchforks. This has nothing to do with pitchforks or attacking you. I'm a mother. I'm a mother of 2 children. I also work in the medical field. For 28 years, I've advocated strongly for my patients. If I felt they needed something, I don't care who the person I was advocating for, it could have been the chief of staff, I will advocate for my patients. I will do the same thing for my children. As a mother, this is very personal for me. I have 2 children. I have one who is a junior at EL. I have one who's a freshman. It frustrates me and bothers me more than I can say that, I'm so proud of my daughter and my son, both of them. But I'm proud of the education that she has had and how she's been able to, she's taking 4 AP classes, she's in chorus, she is on the a cappella, she's in drama, she plays 3 sports. She has taken, the bull by the horns and has taken advantage of everything she can in high school. I ask her, how would you feel if you were in Jack's grade? She goes, Mom, I'm so grateful I don't have to deal with that proficiency-based learning. I'm so grateful that I can be in classes with people who are like-minded, who are there to, discuss a certain topic, not have a bunch of different kids who some don't want to be there, some who do want to be there. They all want to be there. They're all go-getters. They're striving. She already, they've looked at the top 10. She is in the top 10. That's huge for her. She wants to go off to college. She wants to go to a great school. She wants to go into journalism. All of these things. And then I look at my son, and he has gone from, and you talk about we've just started this PBL. We really haven't. It's just been, the name has been changed. It used to be mass customized learning, okay? Now my son went from, when he was in 1st grade, said to me, you know what, Mom? Another kid is the smartest kid in our class. Devin Eggy's the smartest kid in our class. And I was like, well, that's great. She goes, don't worry. I'm the 2nd smartest. And I was like, you know what? Good for you. Granted, do I know that he's the smartest kid in the grade? Who knows? Probably not. You know what I mean? But he has that confidence that he's like, don't worry, I'm the 2nd smartest. I was like, that's really good. Now, fast forward to, I believe it was 5th grade when mass customized learning started. It started with math. I would pick him up from school. He'd be in tears. What's the matter? What happened? Did someone hurt you? I am the stupidest kid in this school. And I said, why do you say that? He goes, because I just don't get it, Mom. Well, how could he? He was basically told, okay, here's your mini lesson. If you have any questions, you can ask me. Otherwise, you can go to Khan Academy. That's a big one to throw at kids. And in doing that, my kid is not the kid that will raise his hand and say, I need help, because he feels he should already know it. So by asking for help, he feels he's stupid. So I've gone from a kid who had tons of confidence to a child who's, I'm picking up in tears because he thinks he's stupid. Now, fast forward to middle school. He hated middle school. It was horrible for him. Everything, nothing was on pace. He was basically told to do it at his pace. He was your average 13, 12, 13, 14-year-old. If I only have to do this and I'm getting okay grades, then that's all I'm doing. Because really, what's the incentive? Also, but at least in middle school, he had A's, B's, C's, and he had the 0 to 100 grading system. So he was able to, he loved being on the high honors. Like that, him and his friends, like they loved seeing their name in the paper that they made the high honors roll. But with this, also this kind of learning, he ended up having to take math in the summer so that he could finish what he should have finished in 7th grade. Again, 8th grade, oh, we're still not doing, I find out in April, now he's getting A's on his report card, so I'm thinking he's doing great. What do I know? I find out in April, no, he still needs to, has quite a bit to finish math. So that's discerning to me. You know, as a parent and a taxpayer, I do trust, I have trusted the school committee, I've trusted the administration. And when you say have patience and trust us, I have, and it's led me to here. So you have to excuse me when I am concerned and I get up here and talk and I come to all the meetings, and you know, I might be a pain in the side for you guys because you guys are, you know, you're getting something pushed back at you. But as a mother, I'm concerned for my child. We have a huge stake in this because we have children that are dealing with this right now. That is a huge stake. So I find that I find the disdain towards the parents really difficult to swallow, because if you look at a lot of the parents that are up here and complaining and saying this, these are parents who have put a lot of time into the system. We're not teachers, but we have volunteered our time. My kids aren't even at Fairview anymore, and if they need help at the Harvest Fest, guess who's there? I'm right there in the arts and craft room helping. I don't even have kids in the school, but I will help. You know, I had the staff appreciation luncheon for many years because I appreciate the work that goes into teaching my children. I appreciate, you know, all the hard work, and I appreciate the fact that a lot of people have put a lot of hard work into this new system. I truly appreciate that, and I know that it stems from the fact that they want to improve the kids and they want to help improve the system. I just think that we need to look at the system closer and see that even though there's been a lot of work to it, and I appreciate that, it's not working. And if this system is supposed to work for every child and learn at their own pace and let kids fly and let kids learn slower, then why isn't it working for my kid? Why has it never worked for my kid? Why has it made my kid go from being super confident to being picked up in tears and feeling that he is the stupidest kid in the school? That is not working. And I addressed this way back when it first started with the teacher, who, mind you, is now retired, because she didn't like the way that the roads were going. You know, she had said that to me, that it was just something that she wasn't being allowed to teach. Now, we hire teachers in the system. Now, I'm of the assumption we hire qualified, educated teachers who have been through school, they have gotten their bachelor's degree, most of them have master's degrees. So to me, they're pretty adequately educated. So the fact that we keep hiring people to teach these teachers who are adequately and proficiently taught, rather than adding more teachers to the system, decreasing class size, paying our teachers really what they deserve to be paid, that to me is a travesty of what's going on. So I think it's time to really look at that. Now, I sit here and I say this, and sometimes I feel like, and I do because I've been one of those parents that have been to a lot of these meetings, have been involved in all this, have, you know, and I feel that, am I wasting my time? And sometimes I do feel like I'm wasting my time, I'm wasting my breath here. But the fact that I'm a mother, I will advocate for my child forever. That is one thing I will do. I have advocated for my patients. I will advocate for my child. So I will come up here and I will keep talking and I will keep bugging you, but I just really want you to listen. And I know you want us to listen to you, and I feel like we do, and I feel like I have trusted this system for very long, but now I feel like, it's almost like I feel like I was sleeping and now I'm awake. And that saddens me, that I can't feel that trust anymore, because I feel like it's been broken. As far as technology is involved, Mr. Kendall, you and I were on a committee years ago for the half-day Wednesday. And I remember you saying to me, the reason you wanted to come back onto the school committee, into the school committee, is because you felt that Auburn was sorely lacking in technology. You felt that you really wanted to be a proponent to bring technology into the school, that we were advancing and Auburn was staying behind because they weren't having the technology. While I applaud the fact that we have technology, I feel that now, and even looking at the budget, there's more money going towards technology than there is towards paying teachers. I feel that we have gone from maybe not enough technology to now way too much. I don't need a computer system. I don't need Khan Academy teaching my son or my children. I need a teacher. I pay taxes to send my kids to public school. I could send them to private school, but I do trust the public school. I went to a public school. I learned the old-fashioned way, the traditional way. I did very well. I went to college. I got a bachelor's degree. I have plus education. I think that we need to also look at, why do we want so much technology? What's the purpose? Because it's really not helping our kids. It's making them slaves to a machine. And that's not what I want for my kids. And I feel that just because I live in Auburn and I don't live in Falmouth, my kids should have the same education as any kid in Falmouth, or any kid in Yarmouth, or any kid in Cumberland, or Scarborough, or Brunswick. Every child in Maine should have the same opportunity, whether you live in a town that's a blue-collar town or a white-collar town. Every child should have that opportunity. And so it bothers me, because I came from a town in Connecticut that they would have had that Falmouth, Yarmouth education. And now I think, geez, what did I do? Because when I came here, I've always been proud of living in Auburn. I've been proud of the school system. I've been proud of the teachers that have taken the time to teach my children. My children have had wonderful, wonderful teachers all the way throughout, principals, support. They've been great. My daughter has had an amazing experience at EL. Amazing. And that's why it hurts me so much to see my son struggling with, and he doesn't even know that he's struggling, but he is. Yesterday, he had an absolute meltdown because all of a sudden he realized, oh my God, Mom, everything is due. So what do you mean everything is due? There's no accountability. So now, because there's been no accountability all year, everything is due. So talk about, like what Suzette said, the stress level, the depression, the self-esteem issues. These are all issues that are being propagated by this system. So really, I really hope you do listen, and I appreciate all the parents who are filling out the forms and really giving their voice, and I hope that you hear them. And I hope that teachers who are afraid to speak up, which I know that there are many, I hope that they can fill that out. And I know that the teacher form in the beginning, basically, I know it's supposed to be anonymous, but the way that it was worded, a lot of people didn't feel that that was something they wanted to fill out, because they knew that you'd be able to know exactly who it were if you really wanted to. I'm not saying you have the time to sit there and go through all of these and figure out, oh, that's Jenny, that's so-and-so. You know, I'm just saying that people want to feel secure. When they tell you that it's anonymous, they want to feel secure in that. And that is a way that they will give you the honest opinion that you so sorely need to figure out if this is working or not. Because it's great to have people come up here and say, this is great, my students are learning. That's awesome. I wish I was one of those people. I wish I was one of those proponents, but I'm not. And I wish that people could honestly feel free to come up and say the negative. So thank you for your time, and I appreciate you listening.
Good evening. Matthew Kovakovich, 114 Lake Street.
Good evening.
A lot of stuff has been said. I don't want to repeat. I've never used Empower. I've never used Power School. I use a computer 6 to 8 hours a day. Want me to wait?
Well, he's leaving.
Okay. I use a computer 6 to 8 hours a day. I'm exhausted. My wife just pointed at my eye and said, "Why is your eye all red?" It's because I didn't have my reading glasses. So for me, the most meaningful reports that I get about my children's progress in school are coming from them. And we talk to them every day at breakfast. We talk to them every day at dinner. The most meaningful things that we get from them about their progress come in the form of notes from teachers who are subbing and aren't in the system. And so they write personal notes and say, "Luca is excelling. He comes to class prepared. He is a student who is dedicated to his work." That to me means more than a 3 or a 4 in a system that's, honestly, 18, 20 months ago, I was very much for it. I was pro this this transformation. I was on a committee, you know, developing the transcript for college. I was helping to shape this thing. I was explaining to people, no, a 4 isn't an A. It's not an A. You got to understand. And then you all screwed it up. And you've turned someone who was pro into a foe. And I really feel sorry for you when we elect you guys again.
My name is Nicole Sivney, and I'm a current freshman at Edward Little High School. And I use Empower like daily. So let me just say right off the bat, there are a lot of flaws and a lot of glitches. And I was sitting in study hall with one of my friends, and I was like sitting there because he was like, "I don't know what my grades are," and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, "So why don't you just check Empower?" He said, "I don't know my Empower stuff. I don't know how to like manage it." And
okay, hold on.
Like, use it or log in or anything like that. And I said, "So you've never logged in, you've never checked your grades?" And he said, "No." So he went to the tech guy and he finally figured everything out. And yeah, so that's, but like, I don't think that the teachers were properly trained to use Empower, because even now, teachers are still confused and they are just like struggling to use it because their screens are a lot different than our screens. We're seeing different screens and they're just saying, "Oh, I don't know what you're seeing, but I'm seeing this." In December, there was like a poll on Twitter, and it was just for freshmen only to see who preferred the 1 to 100 Power School or the 1 to 4 on Empower. And 97% of students said that they liked Power School, the 1 to 100, better than Empower. Only 3% chose Empower. The freshman class is, like, the classes are just growing. The freshman class is one of the biggest classes, like, is the biggest class currently in EL. So 97% is a huge amount. With like foreign language classes, they have multiple students with like in different grades. Like freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. And with the freshmen using Empower, it's very difficult for teachers to grade things because they have to keep flipping. Like, I'll be sitting in my French class and my teacher will have to take 10 minutes to grade something just for the upperclassmen, and they'll take another 10 minutes to grade for Empower because he has to keep flipping screens, shut off his laptop, because all of the Empower is just like glitching. I personally find it hard to use because I actually had to manage and learn how to use Empower on my own. I figured out just by clicking around and not doing, I couldn't ask how to use it because they would just show me and then not really explain it. They just say, click this, click this, click this, click this, then go back and then click this. And we tried using it in late 8th grade, and we tried it we tried to use it as much as we could, but we just couldn't because no one knew how to use it. No one was trained yet. But even now, still, no one knows how to use it. And I think that as much as I don't like it, I'm seeing the progress that you guys are trying to make for Empower, but I feel like we're not really going anywhere. But if we're going to be using the system longer, then we have to train people better and show them how to use it properly, or at least go back to 1 to 100 and stay with something like that. I don't know. That's it.
Hi, my name is Pam Morgan, and I live at 3 Wilson Street, and I hate public speaking. So I was not prepared to be here and speak tonight, but just feel that there's a need to be heard. And I agree with everything that everyone has said here tonight, so I don't want to reiterate everything that everyone has said. However, I am fearful of the lack of motivation with the students going forward. I am concerned with the current grading system, the way that it runs, and the lack of competition. I think competition is healthy. It's something that happens every day in life. To try and make everything even across the board is not going to serve anyone any good later on in life. When I graduated from high school, I applied for a physical therapy school. And I did get accepted, luckily, but I was one of 400 that were accepted at UNE in Maine. And of that 400, you had to maintain a certain GPA in your math and sciences for 2 years, for the first 2 years of the program. If you maintain that, they were only accepting 60 students into the actual program. I was accepted, moved on, maintained my GPA, was one of the 60 that made it into the class. By the end of the class, there were only 42 that graduated out of 60, and out of 600 that applied. It's a pretty rigorous program. And if you're not willing to put in the time, the energy, the homework that is required, the tests, I mean, you fail things 3 times, you're out of the program, that's it. And even when you graduate from college and you've passed all the tests and you've done the practicals and you've done your clinicals, when you get out there in the field, you still have to pass a board of exams. And you're only allowed to take that so many times before you either have to take additional classes or you move on to a different profession, I guess. I don't know. But I just feel that the way things are running right now, you're not preparing the students for a situation like that. The other thing is, and I'm really glad to hear that you guys are taking what we're saying seriously and you are going to be making some changes, because I think we have been patient. I think this is 7 years in the making and I don't see it progressing. I don't see positive progress. And, if this is something that you guys want to go forward with, we need to see some feedback. We need to see some actual numbers and statistics that, you want to keep paying and spending this money. But in any business, if you propose something to a corporation, they're only going to finance that for so long, and then they're going to stop, because if they're not showing progress, they're going to refinance somewhere else where they can make progress. So, you know, we've given you 7 years. We really need to see some change. Either that or just scrap the idea and go back to something else. It's just disheartening, really. And time is running out. You know, in elementary school, I thought, yeah, I went and listened to B. McGarvey do her speech, and it was motivating, and I was hopeful. But after 7 years, I don't see anything. I don't see any changes, nothing positive. So I don't know, it's just hard to be uplifting and positive. So I thank you for all your hard work and all your attention, and I just really hope that you're listening to people, because we are the taxpayers and we are providing the money for this funding, and eventually we're just going to stop. So thank you.
Amy Hesby, 75 Shepley Street. I appreciate some of the dialogue that's happened here tonight, and to me it brings back the point that I believe back in March we had a petition going that we really would like a public forum, and that was not embraced at all, but I believe there's a need for that. You can see there's a lot of questions that need to be answered, and there's a lot of dialogue that needs to happen, and I feel like there's been a fear or a reluctance to go ahead with having a public forum, but I think it can be helpful for the public and the board to get a better grip on this. I don't think there's a need to speed ahead and continue down this path without having a thoughtful examination of where we're at. So I really would support having a public forum so that we can work these things out further.
Good evening. My name is Laura Garcia. I live at 20 Skillings Corner Road, and I have 2 children in the Auburn Public Schools. And you've heard from me before, so I'm going to be brief. I did speak at the City Council meeting on Monday evening. Superintendent Grondin, I can appreciate your frustration. You said that they don't want to listen. Not sure who they are, but I'm assuming I'm one of them. What I would like to say to that is that how can we feel listened to or our opinions carry any weight with the school committee when Chairman Kendall said to the City Council that the concerns were that of about a dozen parents who had just come forward in the last 2 months. That is why people are here tonight. But they were also here at your last regular school committee meeting. We did ask for a public forum originally, and before that meeting ever ended, before it even ended, Principal Lanier sent me an email saying, let me know when you can do it, what the dates are, and let's work together for a format. I said, okay, great. I met with Principal Lanier at Gritty's one night for like 2 hours, and we had some good discussion and everything. But then next thing I knew, the public forum idea was off the table, and Superintendent Grondin, you called me and you asked me about it. And I told you that you talked about doing a task force, and I told you, and I did it in a friendly manner. I didn't say, don't do that. Or I didn't say no, as Ms. Hayes suggested. If you recall, what I said to you is, geez, Katie, I wouldn't do that, because there's been a lot of parents who've talked about prior task force and having had a bad experience, and they felt disenfranchised. So I told you, you're going to need to get buy-in if we're going to go forward on this, and the best way to get buy-in is, to first find out what the issues are. And we talked about the possibility of a survey. And you ended that conversation saying to me, you need to trust me. I've only lived in Auburn for 2 years, and I went into this hoping for a dialogue. People can go back and watch the video of the March 14th meeting. The March 14th meeting. And at that time, I simply said, there's a lot of discussion about this going on in Augusta. There are districts across the state that are having the same kinds of concerns that I've heard from people. Now is the time for us to just stop, pause for a little bit, open up the dialogue, hear what people have to say. That's when I presented the petition. Let's do the public forum. Let's get the feedback that we really need to determine whether this is the right course for Auburn. Mr. Kendall, that evening you dismissed that, saying, I don't know what's going on in Augusta, Citizens Initiative, or whatever, but it's the law, and we are not going to change path until the law changes. Well, the Department of Education for Maine actually has issued a memorandum stating that grading 1 through 4 is not the law, as well as the other things that we are implementing. The diploma law, I understand the idea that proficiency-based learning is one way to satisfy the diploma law. But that night, on March 14th, I said 2 things. I said, there are a couple of different ways we could have satisfied it. One is that we could have determined what was proficiency. We're already teaching to standards. We could have said anything above an 80 could have been proficiency. That's what Cape Elizabeth's doing. That's what Brunswick's doing. That was an option for us. The other thing is we could do what like New York does. There could be a Regents exam. We could give an exam on their junior year. They could determine where their deficiencies are. They could actually do some remedial work before they graduate from high school. We could have done it that way. It's not the law. And that is why there is pushback in Scarborough. There is pushback. I just have been getting some emails from somebody up in Orono. They're getting ready to go down this path. York, I was invited to a meeting in York on this. They got signs all over the lawns down there. Grades matter and stop PBL. So one of my concerns has been that we have focused so exclusively on this, that we haven't looked at other avenues. And I would like to echo some of Mr. Marino's comments in that the people who are pushing this, the tech companies, and also I think Ms. Sear made a great point. It's interesting that in this methodology that gets put forth in Inevitable and other places, there's never any discussion about neuroscience and technology and the impact on adolescent development. And I don't understand how, if this is a well-researched methodology, how that could be so absent from the conversation. Because all of us as parents have concerns about our kids' time on screens, and we should, because it's getting worse. And I would suggest to you that that may be part of why our test scores have been going down in recent years. I would like to say that the people who are pushing this keep citing a survey, and Mr. Kendall, you distributed it to the city councilors and to the school committee members. Achieve put out a survey saying that 50% of high school students are graduating, and they are saying they are not college or career ready, and they have to take remedial classes. If you actually look in the literature on that survey, they actually asked some of the participants why it is they felt they were not career or college ready. And the responses were because they never had homework. Because the expectations that people had of them in high school were not high enough. That nobody ever took the time to teach them study skills. Well, if they don't have homework and they can retake a test, under PBL. My concern is we're not going to develop that set of study skills and time management that they need to be successful in the workplace or in college. So they're no homework, they didn't get trained on some study skills like memorization, the expectations were not high enough, and they didn't know about all the possibilities that would be available to them after high school, or else they would have taken classes that demanded more of them. It's all right there, quotes from the people. So again, we can look at data, but sometimes data does us a disservice. Sometimes we actually have to hear from the individuals, because computers can't quite replace the unique voice of people. We're not numbers, and I don't want my student to be a number, and I don't want their education to be a number. Meaning, I don't want it to just be about tracking their progress. I want them excited. I want them challenged. I want them to keep, to be part of a community of learners. And I want them to have relationships with teachers like I did. Ones that inspired me, ones that I still think of fondly. And I don't see a lot of that as being the focus these days. So, the task force, yes, I think we will be addressing some issues. But I will say that even the way that the task force was put together and the failure to communicate with the parents who made the request for the public forum, which then got dropped, and then we went to a task force, it was never even communicated to us about how you were going to form the task force. And then the surveys, we weren't asked about or told about the surveys, they just went out. And we've also learned that, for example, with the teacher survey, besides the anonymity problem, I just learned that, well, I had known it before, but got confirmation that the teachers, once they complete the survey, they can actually look at all the other data from other teachers having completed the survey. I haven't seen that data yet, but apparently any teacher has. I'm on the task force, so that's a problem. And you're telling me tonight that the data supports our what we want, but I'm on the task force and I've seen only one set of data. I haven't seen the student data. I haven't seen the teacher data. So I think it's a little premature to say, because those are stakeholders too. So again, I do hope you're listening. I do think there is a problem in this community with trust at this point, and that's most unfortunate. And I hope going forward that trust can be rebuilt. Thank you for taking the time to listen to the people who came tonight. It's clearly more than a dozen. And I will tell you that there are a number that aren't here tonight that share our sentiment. But again, it's a busy time of year and I have a number of emails from people saying, I want to be there tonight. I'm going to send an email instead, or I can't make it because I have to go to a softball game, or this, that. And these are the families that are committed to their kids, and that's why they can't be here. And I think you already heard that talked about tonight. So I know it's been a late night for all of you. Thank you for your time.
I'll bring the public session to a close. Do we have any committee reports?
We're just still working, council's still working on the various parts of the budget and revisiting again with various department heads.
Yep.
I have something to ask.
Yes, go ahead.
Frieder, I guess I chaired that meeting when we had our budget to zero.
Mm-hmm.
And I specifically asked the manager if this was going to be a controversial meeting or not. I asked him privately whether this was going to be a budget that was going to pass at zero, or what was going to happen. And I said, will everybody be humble? Because we are helping. We're helping. And I'm really sorry. I didn't think that was a very humble meeting the other night. I thought that that was very antagonistic, and we gave our money to the city willingly, because we're all citizens.
Right, and I think-
And we weren't even really acknowledged that we had done it.
I believe I acknowledged you.
You did, but the mayor
and-
didn't. So, that's my concern, is that I hadn't experienced that before.
And the
I was
manager
very.
also acknowledged it.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. But it was not a humble meeting. It wasn't, thank you very much for doing this. We know this hurts.
Well, okay, what the last thing is everyone's going to hear is that we were not appreciative, and twice I mentioned it, and the manager mentioned it as well.
Yes, you did it, and the manager did.
Right.
However, it was not appreciated overall. Mr. Titus didn't appreciate it, Mr. Walker didn't appreciate it, Miss Gary didn't appreciate it.
How do we know that? How do we know that? If they didn't say thank you, is that why?
No,
that you're
the
assuming that they
attitude that
didn't
was there.
appreciate it?
So that's all I have to say, and you and I can discuss it later, but it's too late to discuss it at this point, but I was really disconcerted with the whole thing, that we willingly did this. We stepped to the plate. And I would hope that your budget would come in at a 0 too.
Our budget is not done yet, and it
I know that.
certainly has had some slashing done to it.
It hasn't
So-
yet, has it?
Yes, it has.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
So this is not a competition. You know, we're all in this together.
That's right. We are all in this together.
So let's be humble. Thank you.
What did you say, Faith?
I just said that's correct. We are all in this together. Everybody should give some, and that's just what we're hoping for. And I guess we walked into that meeting knowing that we had given all we could, and it just didn't seem well appreciated.
Well, I don't know what to say. I mean.
That's all right. I just want you to take it back.
You expressed your thoughts that
Yes, you
meeting.
did.
We appreciate that, so I think
Yes.
we're
Mr.
fine there,
and
you
the
can't
manager,
speak, you can't speak for others.
expressed. Yep.
Right,
Thank
exactly.
you.
Very good. Have there been other committee meetings that need report?
Wellness met. Yep, we met today, and
Wait, I went to my first wellness meeting.
do you want to report?
No, you can.
Okay.
I just wanted to say that.
It's very late, Jenna. No, so we have, through revising the policy, we've noticed that the policy is not out there enough to the teachers, to the parents, to the staff, to the administrators. So the committee has put together one of the parents actually took charge of that, Pam, and put together a one-page form that will be sent out through the teachers to the parents on highlighting the key parts of the wellness policy, so that we can all, eventually it's going to be a cultural change within the schools, but so that we can all be on the same page as far as wellness goes for the community of Auburn.
Yes, John.
I'll speak to one thing that I was very happy about. To me, it's very important that all of the kids in our school have the opportunity to have a healthy snack, and I was concerned that maybe some kids didn't have the advantage to have that, and I was happy to hear that all of the schools do provide an opportunity for the kids to have a healthy snack, even if it's not brought from the home environment. So I was very happy in regards to that.
No other committee reports. We have our upcoming meeting on June 6th. This the retirees and the system dropout awards. We have the school budget referendum for the citizens on June 12th, and our regular school committee meeting on June 20th. Graduation is on the
Second.
June 2nd. 7:30.
7:30.
7:30. I was going to say, I hope it's
Okay,
7:30.
yeah.
I have it in my book.
Yes,
That's right.
state
It's always
track meet is
meet
also on June
Saturday.
2nd.
Just so you know,
How is this?
at the recognition night, we probably going to have to meet a little before, because we'll have hiring that we need to do, so we'll do a consent agenda. I also need to do an executive session tonight, but that's all right, we'll do it June 6th. So I just wanted to let you know that.
Okay, so no executive session tonight.
Nope.
All right.
Well, your meeting
Yep.
ends at 10.
Yeah, I know. We were going to have to vote it in if we
Yeah,
did. So
that's all right, it's not something I can't do on the 6th.
I would accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor? Declare us adjourned. Thank you very much.